Do you hate me? I can see hatred in your eyes. The pill fairy's eyes flickered as she looked at Long Chen. Yes, I've begun to hate you. You shouldn't have brought Wan Qing into this. You've lost your kindness. You shouldn't make everyone as cold as you, said Long Chen. Long Chen was angry that Wan Qing had been made to weep. Her pain, her helplessness, they stabbed deeply into his heart. People can prevent feeling lost and in pain by following the direction of the god. It's better for her to feel some pain now than feel pain forever. Everything will get back on track after that pain. Bullshit, sneered Long Chen. Brahma and Fallen Day Knight are two idiots. Just from the fact that they could become gods, I can tell that the so-called gods are just dog shit. There is no absolute right or wrong in this world that can be used to judge things. The only thing you can use to judge right and wrong is your own heart. Blasphemers of the gods must die. The pill fairy's flames exploded out of her, filling the air with such heat that it felt like the void would combust. After that, the Brahma divine diagram appeared, covering up the sky. It's bigoted, ignorant people like you that must die. Evil moon appeared in Long Chen's hands. Brahma's will, divine diagram destroys the heavens. The pill fairy formed hand seals that caused divine light to shine down from the Brahma divine diagram, enveloping Long Chen and the pill fairy. The two of them became translucent, as if the two of them were in a different world. Others could see them, but they couldn't sense their auras. Boom. Within the world of the Brahma divine diagram, Long Chen slashed his saber. A white sword had appeared in the pill fairy's hands, and she blocked Long Chen's attack. Water droplets flew on impact. Those droplets then exploded, transforming into thousands of ripples. Every ripple contained terrifying power, but within this special space, they didn't cause any damage. The two of them repeatedly clashed, and flames exploded against each other. A flame dragon roared behind Long Chen, while a flame phoenix let out a brilliant cry behind the pill fairy. One dragon and one phoenix repeatedly clashed, unleashing endless flames. The flame that the two of them controlled was identical. The two of them didn't even need to move as their flames clashed. After just a moment, it was no longer possible to see the two of them in the midst of the flames. Attack! As the pill fairy and Long Chen fought within the Brahma divine diagram, Dongfang Yang was the first to break the silence. The other experts attacked alongside him. Just as Dongfang Yang attacked, a whip composed of thousands of thin willow branches attacked him. They were a mix of black and white, looking extremely strange. Dongfang Yang's expression changed as soon as he sensed that whip. He raised the shield in his left hand. With a loud boom, Dongfang Yang was sent flying, his arm shaking and blood leaking out of his mouth. He felt like his organs had flipped inside him. Dongfang Yang was extremely shocked. That whip had contained death energy capable of invading his body through his shield. Suddenly, the void exploded and a towering willow appeared, spreading from the earth to high in the sky. Countless leaves stabbed toward Dongfang Yang. Dongfang Yang hastily summoned his manifestation. His spear danced in the air, blasting apart the branches. However, their immense power still made his arm numb. An undying willow. Dongfang Yang was truly worthy of being a disciple of an everlasting family. He instantly recognized Lu Ruyan's origins. But after recognizing it, he was even more shocked. An endless torrent of willow leaves followed Dongfang Yang into the midst of the Dongfang family's disciples, injuring everyone struck. They furiously counterattacked. "Retreat! Don't block them!" shouted Dongfang Yang. However, it was too late. Thousands of the Dongfang family's disciples had started fighting against the undying willow's leaves. However, they quickly realized something was wrong. The people beside them were starting to rapidly age. Some were already turning white-haired, wrinkles covering their face. Its attacks contained death energy. Without a heaven's soul manifestation, your lifespan will be stolen. Shouted Dongfang Yang. His shield suddenly grew much larger, and he smashed it into Lu Ruyan. Boom! Lu Ruyan's giant body shook from the impact of the shield, and the Dongfang family's disciples fled rapidly. As a result of this short fight, their mighty army looked like it was 1 foot in the grave. It had all happened in the blink of an eye. Die! Facing such a setback right at the start, Dongfang Yueyang furiously summoned the astral ancient castle, smashing it into Lu Ruyan. Undying, inextinguishable, heavenly Tao of sublime life. Lu Ruyan's emotionless voice rang out. As soon as it did, the giant branches transformed into a huge net that blocked the ancient castle. Even that giant castle wasn't strong enough in front of Lu Ruyan. The ancient castle rapidly spun, blasting apart the branches. But more branches grew rapidly to block it. "Let's see how long you can last," shouted Dongfang Yueyang, wanting to exhaust Lu Ruyan. Through the willow branches, Lu Ruyan's true body sneered. Her roots were in the ground, constantly replenishing energy. Even her leaves were absorbing energy from the air. Here, in the location of the Qi flow eruption, there was plenty of energy to absorb. As long as the Qi flow eruption continued, she had limitless power. She could last as long as she wanted. But she wasn't fond of speaking, so she didn't say anything. Long Chen had only asked her to stop Dongfang Yueyang. As for the rest, she didn't need to bother with anything. She had now easily done so. Lu Ruyan had stopped Dongfang Yueyang, and the others were also clashing. Yu Zifeng faced Kun Pingzi, unleashing rays of beautiful sword qi. Kun Pingzi's manifestation was at full power, and he was fighting from a distance with lightning attacks from his halberd. After slaying Jian Wuchen, Yu Zifeng's fame had almost surpassed Long Chen's. He was claimed to be the most terrifying existence within the Dragonblood Legion aside from Long Chen. Even Kun Pingzi had to be careful against Yu Zifeng. He was afraid of Yu Zifeng finding a single opening and slaying him. The offensive power of sword cultivators was just too terrifying. Even Kun Pingzi felt that he was in danger of dying if Yu Zifeng had a single opening. Kun Pingzi was locked down by Yu Zifeng. As for Huang Feiyan, she directly pounced on the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows. She was planning on slaughtering all of them on the outer edges. Huang Feiyan summoned her true body, and a 9 heavens divine phoenix appeared. The runes on her feathers lit up, beautiful divine light shining out of them. It was like golden sand was sparkling in the sky. Spreading her wings, she announced, "Cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, I will exterminate you today. Watch out." Kun Pingzi suddenly let out a startled cry. A giant figure had silently appeared above Huang Feiyan's head. After that, a pair of sharp claws stabbed down into Huang Feiyan's back. The sneak attacker was Cloud. She had been hidden in the sky thanks to using one of Xia Chen's formations and was to be used as a trump card. However, as soon as Huang Feiyan came out, Cloud couldn't endure it. Thinking of how Huang Feiyan had brought people to kill her fellow cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows, her killing intent exploded. Thanks to the formation hiding her, Huang Feiyan sensed her too late. She only looked up when she heard Kun Pingzi shout. Before she could even see what it was, intense pain racked her back. Cloud's claws pulled and blood splashed. One of her beautiful wings was torn off. "Your 9 heavens divine phoenix race should go straight to hell." Cloud ground her teeth. Huang Feiyan tried to struggle, but Cloud pulled again, and Huang Feiyan's other wing was torn off. Huang Feiyan's miserable cry resounded through the air. Kun Pingzi wanted to go save Huang Feiyan, but then a cold ray of sword qi brushed right past his neck. The distraction had almost taken his life, covering him in a cold sweat. He knew that Huang Feiyan was doomed now. No one could save her. Cloud's claws continued to tear into Huang Feiyan's back. Her own divine power completely suppressed Huang Feiyan's. With one claw, she raked away a large chunk of Huang Feiyan's flesh. The other Xian beasts tried to charge over, but Gu Yang appeared, killing one after another. They were unable to reach Cloud. The Dragonblood Legion's Gu Yang is present. If you have guts, then come. Gu Yang shouted, the aura of his dragon blood suddenly erupting out of him. He summoned his dragon blood battle armor, slaughtering enemies with his blood-colored spear. No! Huang Feiyan let out one final cry as Cloud opened her mouth and shot out a black sword that stabbed straight through Huang Feiyan's head. Huang Feiyan's head soared into the air, and her vitality rapidly faded. Her final shout still hung in the air. Cloud let out a resounding bird cry, a cry of hatred and released humiliation. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had been humiliated for so many years. With Huang Feiyan's blood, they had started up their path for vengeance. The void suddenly exploded as a giant Nine Heavens divine phoenix appeared, its claws reaching toward Cloud. It was the leader of the Nine Heavens divine phoenix race. Seeing their strongest genius be killed, he went crazy. Since he wasn't able to save Huang Feiyan, now all his hatred was cast onto Cloud. This Nine Heavens divine phoenix had lived for countless years. His very core was igniting as he went all out against Cloud. "Cloud, don't face him directly," shouted Mengqi. This Nine Heavens divine phoenix was too powerful. There was no meaning in facing him directly. Seeing Cloud directly fly back within the chi flow stream, the Nine Heavens divine phoenix roared. "The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race is a pack of inferior cowards. You don't even have the courage to fight." Cloud's anger soared once more and her wings spread. She would fight for the honor of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. The leader of the Nine Heavens divine phoenix race was delighted to see this. All his feathers suddenly emitted streams of divine light. He was igniting his own essence, blood and longevity to unleash an all-out attack to kill Cloud. However, just as his divine ability was brewing, a blood-colored arrow pierced his eye. Blood rained down, and he let out a miserable shriek. Everyone's gazes first turned toward Yen, only to see him raise his hands innocently. "It wasn't me. I swept through the 4 seas, crossed 1,000 mountains, caused huge billows in heaven and earth. With one arrow the cosmos shakes. If you need a peerless divine archer, you can come find Guoran. In the future, I'll thank everyone for calling me the divine archer Guoran." Guoran waved a greeting to the attacking army. He was standing so conspicuously like he was worried others might not see him. That smile on his face was as arrogant as possible, and he held a large blood-colored crossbow. Before others could react, Cloud activated a divine ability, using her wings as sharp swords that slashed through the leader of the Nine Heavens divine phoenix race. He was instantly killed. That leader was truly unlucky. His full-power divine ability was interrupted midway, causing the power he had accumulated to grow chaotic and almost explode. He had barely managed to suppress that power and stop himself from exploding when Cloud's attack arrived. "Cloud, come back," called Mengqi, worried about further provocations. On the other hand, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows cheered. Guoran began to shoot his crossbow repeatedly, every time causing the head of a Xian beast to explode. People weren't even able to see his arrows before they struck. His arrows were so fast that even spiritual strength was unable to grasp them. Hiding and secretly shooting people is shameless. Is the entire Dragonblood Legion like this? Shimin Tianxiong furiously charged into the chi flow stream, attacking Guoran. Sure, Lingfeng is missing an eye, so it's understandable that he's blind. But are you also blind? Can you not see this giant crossbow of mine? How can it be called hiding and shooting secretly? Mocked Guoran. A ray of light shot out at Shimin Tianxiong from his crossbow. Insignificant. You can't do anything to me. Shimin Tianxiong didn't even seem to pay attention to it. As if knowing the future, he swung his saber, shattering the arrow. Guoran wanted to shoot again, but Shimin Tianxiong had arrived in front of him. Hence, Guoran could only put away his crossbow and pull out his dual blades. "Then let me experience the amazing abilities of the everlasting families. I want to see if they're as amazing as the legends say," said Guoran. The metal feathers on his wings transformed, becoming a hardened carapace around his wings. From the back, he looked like a beetle, and that beetle shell looked exceptionally tough. Boom! Guoran's saber met Shimin Tianxiong's, and Shimin Tianxiong was surprised to find that his saber was actually blocked. He had activated his manifestation and was not holding back. But he was unable to suppress Guoran in terms of power. "Hee, are you surprised? I'll tell you. This is another state of my armor, one with the power runes activated. The reason I retreated before was to give the spotlight to my boss, otherwise, he'd get mad at me. But did you really think I only had that little bit of ability? If I was so weak, how could I sit in the position of general of the entire Dragonblood Legion? Little fellow, you're too naive. The runes on Guarant's wings grew brighter. Following that, the light flowed into his arms and then his sabers. Today, I'll show you the power of the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 battle armor. Try to survive my tempest of attacks. Guaran began to repeatedly slash his sabers, his arms spinning like wheels, unleashing dozens of attacks in the blink of an eye. What kind of crap is this? Guarant's figure was no longer visible. All that was visible was repeated saber images. Guaran was like a tireless machine with his repeated attacks. Shimen Tianxiong, a supreme genius, a survivor of countless battles, had never seen such a thing. He was repeatedly forced back. The current Guaran was like a hedgehog, and worst of all, this hedgehog's quills were constantly spinning around it. For a moment, Shimen Tianxiong didn't know how to counterattack. Li Qi, let's go handle Shi Lingfeng. Song Mingyuan saw Shi Lingfeng charging over. He and Li Qi went over. Shi Lingfeng's head had been cut off by Long Chen, but the stone race was blessed by the heavens. He had reconnected to his body and didn't look like he had even been injured. However, since he had lost a great deal of his core energy, his aura had dropped. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan were both earth cultivators whose power came from the same source as Shi Lingfeng. They had previously managed to fight against him, and now they did the same, stopping him in his tracks. Shui Luocha, last time we couldn't determine a winner. This time we should settle things. Emon Yen flew out to face Shui Luocha. Back then, you were nothing more than a bandit from my Blood Emperor family. Do you think you're fit to fight against me? Shui Luocha no longer maintained her fake cute voice facing Emon Yen. If you want to provoke me, there's no need to use words. Just your face is enough. I wonder, with the Blood Emperor being as thin as a stick of bamboo, did he copulate with a pig to end up having you? Mocked Emon Yen. Die. Shui Luocha's fleshy body quivered as she attacked with her meteor hammer. If a pig like you hasn't died, why would I die? Sneered Emon Yen. Boom. Emon Yen's bow quivered. An arrow shot out, but before it reached Shui Luocha, it exploded. This was an exploding arrow not used for harming enemies. Just as it exploded, a silent arrow shot through its midst at Shui Luocha's neck. Shui Luocha seemed to have a great understanding of Emon Yen's techniques and was prepared. She raised her arm, blocking the arrow. Can you not fight like a man? Sneered Shui Luocha. Can you not look like a woman? Responded Emon Yen. 18 consecutive arrows rained down. Shui Luocha and Emon Yen both had a certain understanding of each other's techniques. They had previously fought each other, with one being the chaser and one being the runner. Emon Yen was a long-range fighter, so the battle between the two of them was the most senseless. Back in the heaven-splitting battle sect, if Tu Qianshang had not arrived and joined forces with him, there would have been no way for him to heavily injure her. Now, once again, they fell into a battle of attrition. Sharp wails broke through the clamor of the battle to strike people's souls. Tian Xiezi had come, waving his soul-summoning banner. Black Qi swirled out of the corrupt god ancient tower above him, as he also charged into the Qi flow stream. I'll handle him, said Tangwan, but she was stopped by Meng Qi. Perhaps your power isn't inferior to his, but you don't have a suitable divine item. You can't handle the corrupt path's top divine weapon. Tangwaner's power had grown explosively, but wind attribute divine materials had been almost used up on the Martial Heaven continent. Tangwana was missing a true divine item that suited her. Even Guaran hadn't been able to forge something that suited her during this time. But if she had a suitable weapon, she wouldn't need to fear anyone. Let me. Yi Zhiqiu walked forward. Zhiqiu, how about we go together? Probed Chu Yao. No need. My master is watching. I will give her a satisfactory display to let her be at ease, said Yi Zhiqiu. She walked out of the crowd gracefully. A ripple passed through the air with every step like she was walking on water. These ripples then froze, becoming ice lotuses. Once she took her next step, the ice lotuses shattered. Yi Zhiqiu looked to be walking slowly but appeared in front of Tian Xiezi in an instant. Without any words, her sword slashed down. Ice Qi froze space, turning the surrounding world into a world of ice. In the distance, Taoist Heavenly Feather smiled. She has finally obtained its acknowledgement. Seeing Yi Zhiqiu come to stop him, Tian Xiezi's heart shook. He felt a great sense of unease from Yi Zhiqiu's ice sword. The soul-summoning banner trembled, and figures shrieking loudly shot out, leaving long tails attached to the banner. Yi Zhiqiu ignored these curses. Her sword continued to swing, unleashing snow and ice through the air. It was beautiful and frigid. Those soul curses froze solid and then exploded, transforming into snow mist. Even souls can be frozen? Tian Xiezi's expression changed. There was nowhere for him to run. He sent the corrupt god ancient tower smashing toward Yi Zhiqiu. Boom! The ice sword slashed into the bone tower. The corrupt god ancient tower was instantly frozen, becoming an ice tower. Tian Xiezi then slammed his hands on the tower, forcibly blasting away the ice covering it. The corrupt god ancient tower managed to escape the ice seal, but Tian Xiezi turned ashen. He was now covered in frost and spat out a breath of cold air that instantly turned into ice outside his body. What terrifying ice chi! All the experts present were stunned. How could Yi Zhiqiu's ice chi be so powerful? Even a divine item on the level of the corrupt god ancient tower could be frozen by it. Tian Xiezi waved the soul-summoning banner once more, and iron hooks came flying out of it, attached to chains. They were like the tails of scorpions. The figure within Tian Xiezi's manifestation shook. After that, light flowed out of the corrupt god ancient tower, enveloping him. He then charged into Yi Zhiqiu's ice domain. A bit of ice energy is nothing in front of divine energy. Tian Xiezi sneered, the energy from his manifestation and the corrupt god ancient tower forming a layer around him that protected him from Yi Zhiqiu's ice chi. The countless hooks from the soul-summoning banner were blocked by Yi Zhiqiu's sword. With every clash, those hooks and chains were frozen solid. But then the corrupt god ancient tower would unleash a wave of light to unfreeze them. Hundreds of hooks flew about, one side freezing them and one side unfreezing them. Snow and ice danced around them, dazzling the people watching. That bastard Long Qin, if he hadn't injured the corrupt god ancient tower, how could this woman be able to block me? Tian Xiezi was filled with hatred. There were several times he was forced back by Yi Zhiqiu. Everyone else, slaughter the Dragonblood Legion. Tian Xiezi ordered the other corrupt disciples to attack the Dragonblood Legion. Kill! The Corrupt Path's army charged in. Millions of people from the Corrupt Path, the Ancient Races, the Ancient Family Alliance, the Stone Race, the Xian Beasts, the Dongfang family, and the Shiman family collapsed upon the Dragonblood Legion. Everyone else's heart clenched. This was a battle of an unprecedented scale. It wasn't just to fight over the chi flow but also to exterminate their enemies. Warriors of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, our chance for vengeance has finally come. We will use their blood to wipe away the humiliation of being bullied for tens of thousands of years. Cloud's cry resonated with the others. They all roared and summoned their true bodies, attacking the incoming Xian beasts. Black light swords shot out of their mouths, shooting through the army of Xian beasts. The Xian beasts were prepared and counterattacked with their own divine abilities. But as a result, their divine abilities were shattered by those light swords. They simply weren't a match for them. Having awakened their ancestral divine abilities, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had regained their former power, which had been enough to stand amongst the top of the Xian beasts. Even before the two sides crashed together, many of the Xian beasts were slain. Their huge corpses exploded, filling the air with a bloody scent. How did the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race become so powerful? The seniors of the Xian beasts stared in shock. This time, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was even stronger than the last time. The myriad spirit diagram. We must obtain it. Peng Wanli's expression was gloomy. He eyed Meng Qi. The reason the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race could become so powerful was because of her. The myriad spirit diagram was a priceless treasure, enough to drive the Xian beasts crazy. In the beginning, the Xian beasts had only felt that the myriad spirit diagram might contain a portion of their divine abilities. Although that was very valuable, it wasn't enough to make them go crazy for it. However, as time passed, they realized they had been mistaken. The myriad spirit diagram didn't just contain a portion of their divine abilities. It contained all their divine abilities, including ones that had been lost for countless years. When he thought of that, Peng Wanli was filled with endless regret. If they had taken this matter seriously back in the day, paying any price to obtain the myriad spirit diagram, the Xian beasts might have become the rulers of this world. Now, under Cloud's lead, the disciples of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race slaughtered their enemies. Even in the face of the Xian beasts that outnumbered them by dozens of times, they were fearless. This was the result of hatred that had been accumulated for countless years. This kind of hatred could only be washed away with fresh blood. Cloud was the fiercest, drawing the attention of the strongest geniuses of the Xian beasts. Her wings were like blades, while her claws were like lightning. With each attack, a powerful Xian beast was slain. In just a short while, she was covered in blood. Cloud suddenly let out a long cry. The other disciples of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race echoed her cry. Their voices resounded through the air. Kill! Cloud, all on her own, charged forward. She drew the majority of the attacks. The others followed her, forming a triangular formation that Xia Chen had given them based on their bodies, speed, power, and divine abilities. For a race of Xian beasts to use a formation to attack was the first in history. Cloud was at the front, the arrowhead of the formation. With her drawing the majority of attention, the pressure on the others behind her dropped. She led the charge, and as the arrowhead, they were like a giant arrow piercing through the army of Xian beasts. Their power was extremely terrifying. However, there were too many Xian beasts. They numbered 800,000, while the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows numbered only 10,000. These cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows were the elites of the elites. This had been decided after discussing it carefully. Originally, they could have sent out 30,000 disciples, but these 10,000 people were the strongest, and if there were too many people, their inferior cooperation could affect their total combat power. There was another more important reason as to why they had only brought 10,000. That was that both Cloud and Long Chen did not want to see large casualties. Cloud especially had seen too many members of her race die. If she saw more, she might go crazy and ruin certain plans. So in the end, they had sent 10,000 elites, and those elites did not disappoint Ke Yuzhu and the other seniors. With Cloud leading them, they showed the power of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, wiping away years of humiliation. Thinking of all that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had suffered over the years, Ke Yuzhu's eyes began to glisten with tears. Ancestors, do you see this? The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race is finally soaring. We are finally starting to wash away our humiliation. Ke Yuzhu clenched her fists. At that moment, she felt that even if she were to die right now, she could face her ancestors. The battle between the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race and the Xian beasts was extremely intense. But an even more intense battle was fought on the ground. The Dragonblood Legion was wielding swords, their manifestations active behind them. They stunned all the experts on the battlefield. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Over 12,000 warriors had identical manifestations that did not conform with the heavenly Daos. Throughout countless years, there could not be two identical awakened manifestations at a time. This was common sense as well as an iron law. However, the Dragonblood warriors had splendidly broken this law. Their manifestations were the same. It was a manifestation of an endless mountain range with a blood-colored dragon roaring amongst the mountains. No, some of them are different. There really was someone who refused to believe what he saw, and comparing them all one by one, he made a new discovery. Look, most of them have manifestations with mountains of stone with nothing growing. But for some of the women, they also have the blood-colored dragons and the mountain range, but their mountains are covered in greenery and giant forests full of life. It's true. Aren't they the healing warriors of the Dragonblood Legion? Someone else recognized those healing warriors who were mostly women. Those healing warriors rarely participated in the killing. They were standing at the core, healing people in the first instant they needed it. If someone faced a curse, they would immediately expel that curse, or if that was impossible, they would draw the curse into their own bodies. Due to the overflowing life energy within them, they could resist the curses. They were responsible for maintaining the complete combat power of the Dragonblood Legion. The Dragonblood warriors had started fighting the powerful enemies of the various powers. Flesh and blood flew through the air. The sight of this shook the leaders of these various powers. The roaring of giant dragons resounded through the air. The manifestations of over 12,000 Dragonblood warriors resonated with each other. Upon unleashing a stroke of their swords, a wave of sword chi slashed through their enemies. Having summoned their Dragonblood battle armor, the Dragonblood warriors were terrifyingly powerful. The first wave of incoming experts was the strongest. Some of them were able to endure the wave of sword chi. Some were not and were blown away. As a result, when the second wave struck, without those top experts taking it, the people behind them turned green. Some of them didn't even have a chance to run and were directly killed by the second wave of sword chi. The rest were still reeling from the first attack and didn't manage to recover in time for the second. However, when the third wave came, their expressions changed. Fuck, it's that technique that Long Chen just used. Those experts thought of how Long Chen had combined the power of the first 8 forms of Split the Heavens until he managed to send the Dongfang family's precious treasure flying. Now they saw that the Dragonblood warriors' attacks were the same. Every wave was more terrifying than the last. The third wave was the strongest. 10,000 streaks of sword chi merged into one, becoming a powerful wave that made the experts at the front regret charging forward. Now they didn't even have a chance to run. They could only go all out. With the Dragonblood Legion at the center, a circular wave of sword chi annihilated tens of thousands of experts. Within the attack range, only a few hundred isolated experts had been able to survive. Those were powerful supreme geniuses of the ancient era, but now they were horrified. The power of the Dragonblood Legion had surpassed their expectations. They saw the problem now. The Dragonblood Legion's manifestations were linked, allowing them to merge their power. In their wave attacks, although the power looked to be evenly distributed, many of the Dragonblood warriors actually focused on them. If these attacks continued, they would be doomed. When the power of over 10,000 Dragonblood warriors gathered together, it was truly terrifying. For a moment, those supreme geniuses didn't dare to advance. They were afraid of death. But they also didn't dare to retreat because they would be laughed at. They just stood there, not knowing what to do. The ground was dyed red by the fresh blood of these powerful experts. Those were no ordinary people but Empyreans with awakened manifestations. The leaders of the various powers were infuriated at this sight. Every powerful Empyrean cost a huge amount of resources to raise. What do we do? With how powerful the Dragonblood Legion is, if we just charge in, there will be massive casualties. It's not worth it, said Long Juansong, the leader of the ancient races. No one had expected over 10,000 people to awaken identical manifestations. Their power linked them into a killing formation with immense power. Palace Master Zhong, isn't it time for your Bloodkill Hall's disciples to make their move? Demanded Xiaowenian. The Bloodkill Hall had naturally come. There were over 3,000 elders standing there. Amongst all the factions that had come, they numbered the fewest. However, the Bloodkill Hall did not win through numbers. The intimidation factor of so many assassins was extremely great. These elders were all Nether Passage experts, and they were wearing cloaks that covered their faces. The Bloodkill Hall's master, Zhong Ziang, indifferently said, "The Bloodkill Hall's disciples will only make their move at the optimal time. Before that time, they won't. This is the iron law of assassins." Xie Wentian snorted. "Are you saying that we acted rashly resulting in our losses?" Xie Wentian's voice clearly contained a provoking tone. He was very dissatisfied with Zhong Ziang's actions. "I didn't say that. It seems that Master Xie is too sensitive." Zhong Ziang shook his head. "Don't act so indifferent as if this isn't your fault. You still haven't given an explanation as to why the Bloodkill Hall's people never showed up last time. Now that everyone else is attacking, not one of the Bloodkill Hall's disciples has appeared. Are you planning on hiding forever? Shouted Xie Wentian. Xie Wentian was the most furious of these leaders. His original plan was for Tian Xiezi to put on a powerful show and kill Long Chen, destroying the Righteous Path's morale. However, the corrupt god Ancient Tower had been heavily injured, while Tian Xiezi was blocked by Yijiqiu. Now, even their combined armies were too frightened to advance in the face of the Dragonblood Legion. Tens of thousands of them were slain in just one attack. The last time that Xie Wentian was referring to was when the Pill Fairy had taken action to keep Long Chen in the end of the Heavens Valley. According to the agreement, the Bloodkill Hall was supposed to assist and make sure that Long Chen stayed behind. However, the Bloodkill Hall's divine daughter, Dong Mingyu, never appeared, and Long Chen ended up escaping. Now that this matter was brought up once more, everyone's gaze turned on Zhong Xiang. He had to give an explanation. Zhong Xiang smiled. The divine daughter is the disciple of the killing god, while we are just the killing god's servants. How could I possibly manage the divine daughter's affairs? As for why she didn't attack at that time, I'm not qualified to ask. But I trust that the divine daughter has her own plans. So don't point your spears at me. We are only collaborating, and we are not required to follow your orders. Also, I don't like when people act big in front of me. You. Xie Wentian's fury rose to an even greater height. The two of you, now isn't the time to argue about that matter. It's already done, so don't bring it up again. The two of you are overlords of the martial heaven continent. Don't you think arguing here will make you laughingstocks? Let's focus on how to attack, interjected Yu Xiaoyun. May I ask if the Dongfang family and the Shimin family have any opinions? The Dongfang and Shimin families were not far. They could count as being on their side. How could I have any opinions? The Dongfang family has always stood aloof from worldly affairs. We are only forced to take action because Long Chen is attempting to topple the martial heaven continent. As for any plans or schemes, I'm sorry, but I don't have a mind for such things, said the Dongfang family's head. As for the head of the Shimin family, he didn't say anything. It seemed that he couldn't even bother associating with them. At this time, we can only ask the Bloodkill Hall's assassins to cause chaos in their interior and break their formation. That's the only way for the rest of us to charge in without huge casualties, said Xie Wentian coldly. That's not certain. If we seniors attack the elders of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, do you think the Dragonblood Legion will be content to just sit in there and watch? Said Zhong Xiang lightly. Everyone's eyes brightened. They hadn't thought of that. Kei Yuzhu and the seniors of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race weren't far. If these people attacked them, the Dragonblood Legion and the disciples of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race would definitely come after them. Just as everyone was delighted by this idea, one person brought up a problem. If we attack them, won't the Martial Heaven Alliance also take action? At that time, we still won't be able to avoid a bloody battle. Leave it to the Shen beasts. Let's see what reason they have to block us. Peng Wanli sneered. If the Shen beasts attacked, that would simply be acting on the private enmity between the Shen beasts and the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. The Martial Heaven Alliance was an alliance of humans. They had no right to interfere. Peng Wanli raised his hand, about to give the order to attack. But before he could, intense rumbling rang out in the distance. The sound of crashing waves shook the world. Countless powerful auras approached. Everyone's expression changed. In the distance, an endless tide of figures surged over. That's the Sea Demon race. They really did come. Did they come to fight over the Qi flow streams as well? People's voices shuddered. They were extremely uneasy at this sight. The sea demons had mostly transformed into human form. Some of them were in half-human, half-demon forms. Perhaps that was an expression of their status. Some of them had 8 legs, some had pincers for arms, some had huge shells on their backs, and some were covered in sharp thorns. Behind those figures were giant sea snakes, black tortoises, giant crabs, mythical lobsters, all kinds of sea demons. An early estimate of their numbers put them past 10 million. Their auras were all extremely powerful. All the people fighting paused to look at these newcomers. One of the sea demons walked out and examined the surroundings. "We won't make things hard on you. Get out of the strongest chi flow stream or face the consequences." The arrival of the sea demon race shook people's hearts. The previous movements of the sea demon race and their activity on the continent had made people guess that they might come for their own portion of the chi flow eruption. However, that was just a guess, because in the past, the sea demon race had never participated in the competition for the chi flow. That was because after the chi flow eruption, all the chi flow would disperse throughout the continent. It would be absorbed by the land and sea once more. The martial heaven searing was vast. Plenty of the chi flow would end up entering the sea. There was no need for them to participate in this. However, all the signs had indicated that this chi flow stream would be the greatest throughout history, so people had speculated that the sea demon race might come to fight over it. The martial heaven searing had always been a mysterious existence. There were countless legends about it. It was too big, too deep for people to investigate fully. People were curious but also afraid of it. Now, the sea demons had truly come, and with an army of millions at that. They had all reached the 11th rank. Based on their powerful auras, they had to be the sea demons with the strongest bloodlines amongst their race. Furthermore, none of their seniors had come. In other words, this army of sea demons possessed enough confidence to not worry about needing their seniors for protection. The martial heaven continent's experts' hearts rose up into their throats. No wonder it was said that the sea demon race possessed the power to match the entire continent's lifeforms. This army before them made them believe it. These sea demons outnumbered all the geniuses of the martial heaven continent here. Just their numbers intimidated everyone. Now it's troublesome. Chu Jianying and the others' expressions changed. These sea demons wanted Long Chen's strongest chi flow stream. The martial heaven continent has never had any conflicts with the martial heaven searing. After so many years of peace, since you want it, you can take it. None of the people on our side has any opinions about it. However, some people might not give you this face. Whether or not you can take the strongest chi flow stream will be up to your own abilities. Yu Xiaoyun smiled at the speaker of the sea demon race. Bastard, he's getting someone else to do his dirty work. Chu Jianying gnashed his teeth. This move was clear to everyone. Wang Yuan, Tianxian, you are the people that Long Chen listens to the most. Can you advise him to leave his chi flow stream? They can come to our side. There's enough chi flow here for them to absorb. We don't need to fall for their scheme. If Long Chen refused to give up his chi flow stream, then the Dragonblood Legion would be facing the sea demon race that possessed the power to contend against the entire continent. Impossible. The old man and Li Tianxian shook their heads at the same time. I understand Long Chen. Even if he has to die, he won't give it up. Otherwise, he wouldn't be Long Chen, said the old man. Li Tianxian was of the same opinion. No one could change Long Chen's decisions. All they could do was watch. Lu Ruyan, Yu Zifeng, Guoran, Yi Zhiqiu, Emon Yen, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan returned to the Dragonblood Legion's side. Their opponents had retreated. Seeing that Li Tianxian and the old man refused to even try to advise Long Chen, Chu Jianying shouted, Dragonblood Legion, as the head of the Martial Heaven Alliance, I order you to come here. Haha, so the Dragonblood Legion is full of cowards in the end. As soon as Chu Jianying said this, someone opened his mouth to mock the Dragonblood Legion and provoke them into staying behind. Even they can't act tough in front of true power. That person's final scream wasn't part of his provocation. It was because an arrow had struck him in the shoulder. That arrow's power wasn't very powerful, but now his entire body was turning black. Death energy spread throughout his body. The speaker was a traitor of the Martial Heaven Alliance. He hastily took out an antitoxin pill, but he could only bring it up to his mouth before his Yuan spirit dissipated. Guoran sneered, a full bottle doesn't make a sound, but a half-full one splashes loudly. For people with half-empty heads who talk loudly, I will send you on the path of reincarnation for free. The experts present couldn't help being afraid of Guoran. His crossbow was absolutely terrifying, and it was like a life-reaping death god. No one wished to be his next target. Whatever toxin he had applied to his arrow, it was ridiculous. Even if someone did consume an antitoxin pill, they would probably still die. Furthermore, Guoran clearly had the ability to kill that person instantly with his attack, but he had instead used poison to make him suffer first. That viciousness gave others chills. Guoran turned to Chu Jianying. Alliance head, we naturally have to listen to you. Our boss also wouldn't dare to ignore your words. However, our boss is our chief. We cannot go against his words. Boss has said that today, we cannot submit to anyone. Even if the big boss of the heavens came, we have to beat him until he kneels. Chu Jianying was infuriated. Even at this time, he was in a mood to talk glibly. Long Chen was fighting the Pill Fairy in the Brahma Divine diagram. With the raging flames over there, Long Chen had no idea what was happening outside. Just at that moment, two flame-wrapped figures appeared outside the Brahma Divine diagram. The flame dragon behind Long Chen roared, while the phoenix behind the Pill Fairy shook its wings, raising the flames around it. Neither of their auras had dropped in the slightest. The Pill Fairy icily stared at Long Chen. There's no need for me to fight to the death with you right now. If you can survive today, we can settle our debts later. The Pill Fairy returned to her camp, leaving Long Chen to face the sea demon race alone. When the Pill Fairy returned to her side, she suddenly swayed, holding her head. Qingxian, are you injured? Yu Xiaoyun immediately went toward her. I'm fine. The Pill Fairy gave a cold reply before ignoring him. After forming hand seals, her divine mark on her forehead lit up. The divine halo behind her head brightened, and her pale face gradually recovered some color. Yu Xiaoyun looked at the Pill Fairy helplessly. Ever since Yu Qingxian had received the god's inheritance, she had grown colder and colder to him, her father. There even seemed to be some kind of hatred. Back then, when he had forced Yu Qingxian to receive the god's inheritance, she had begged him with tears in her eyes not to go through with it. But he had hardened his heart and activated the inheritance ceremony. Ever since that time, Yu Qingxian had never called him father. The daughter that had always wanted to be beside him whenever there was a chance had grown cold to him. The distance between them grew greater and greater. Looking at her icy back, Yu Xiaoyun sighed and didn't say anything else. Everyone's focus was on Long Chen and the army of sea demons. The army of sea demons stretched beyond the horizon. The ones at the rear were like giant mountains. Seeing this army, people found it hard to breathe. The experts of the sea demon race slowly walked forward. At their front was a tall and muscular man with 6 horns on his head. He had shoulder-length hair, and there was a natural iciness to his face. His physical body was so powerful that it felt like his blood qi was about to explode. Just a glance from him was enough to turn someone cold. That man walked over to Long Chen and looked at him coldly. I've heard of you. You are Long Chen, correct? Bring your attendants away, or we'll kill you all. Pow. Long Chen's anger popped up before this man was even finished talking. His breath was disgusting, like rotting fish. Long Chen didn't even bother listening to what he was saying toward the end. He directly slapped him in the face. At this moment, Long Chen's divine ring was still present, so this slap contained immense power. The man from the sea demon race was sent flying and caught by the sea demons in the back. All the experts present, both friend and foe, were dumbfounded. Did Long Chen not even know who that person was? This slap was so resounding that it caused everyone's jaws to drop, including the old man's. Long Chen had even bigger guts than he did. Long Chen didn't deceive him. He had said that he wanted to go big and get his interest and capital back from the previous battle. Now it seemed that he had underestimated Long Chen's taste for vengeance. Was the sea demon race also within his calculations? I don't dislike arrogant people, but I dislike people who are even more arrogant than me. If you have the guts, then why don't you try repeating what you just said? Said Long Chen disdainfully. The man from the sea demon race immediately roared, kill them all. The man's manifestation appeared. Within it was a giant sea drake. It's the 6-horned sea drake race. Seeing that giant sea drake, the senior experts immediately understood. This man came from the leading race of the sea demons. Although the experts of the martial heaven continent didn't know much about the sea demon race, they knew that the sea demon race was under the leadership of the six-horned sea drake race. While crossing the sea, upon encountering any six-horned sea drakes, you had to flee. If you fought, you would be surrounded by sea demons in an instant. Following the man from the six-horned sea drake race, the other sea demons roared. The sky dimmed as the furious army of sea demons charged toward the Dragonblood Legion. Seeing how easily things fell into place, Yu Xiaoyun and the others smiled. They could peacefully watch as the Dragonblood Legion was destroyed. A bone trident tore through the void, bringing with it a fierce howl. The six-horned sea serpent man was the first to attack. Long Chen, your blasphemy toward the six-horned sea serpent race will cause you and your human race to pay a huge price, said the six-horned sea serpent man. He was an extremely young king amongst the six-horned sea serpent race. He was the strongest expert from this generation of the sea demon race and had come here today to show the world the power of the sea demon race and make sure no one dared to fight them. Unexpectedly, though, a little human not only refused to get out of his way but actually struck him. Although he didn't know the insulting nature of a slap in the face, just the fact that Long Chen had struck him was infuriating enough. Boom! Long Chen's saber slashed into the bone trident. The ground beneath their feet exploded, and a huge chi wave soared into the sky. Long Chen was forced back 3 steps. He was caught by surprise by how curiously powerful this sea serpent was. I'll say it again, don't be a pig who only remembers feedings and not beatings. Listen to my words closely. If you want to live long, don't be arrogant in front of me. Pow! Long Chen's left hand swung through the air, slapping the sea serpent in the face once more. Last time, Long Chen's right hand had slapped the left side of his face, and now his left hand slapped the right side of his face. Balance was restored. The sea serpent went spinning through the air. Seeing the sea serpent man get slapped again, everyone's expressions changed, especially the people who had fought against Long Chen like Dongfang Yuyang. The first slap had been too fast for them to see it clearly, but this time, they were prepared. This clearly ordinary slap had been refined into a divine art by Long Chen. Despite seeing it clearly, that sea serpent was unable to dodge it. The profundities behind Long Chen's slap had surpassed their understanding. It could even be said that it had reached the pinnacle of a Dao. The killing power of this move did not reside in the physical slap, but the pain of the mind. Kun Pingzi's expression was the darkest of all. He had been slapped in the face by Long Chen as well, and now he couldn't put it out of his mind. These supreme geniuses would rather be struck several times with a blade than be slapped in the face. The sea serpent man let out a heaven-shaking roar. Although he didn't understand the humiliating aspect of a face slap, having fallen for it twice still caused his fury to soar. One of the horns on his head began to shine, and his aura leaped a whole level. Then a second horn also lit up. 4 of his horns lit up one by one, his aura growing every time. It was like one seal after another was being undone within his body. A heart-clenching air rose out of the sea serpent. Seeing this, Long Chen didn't dare to tarry. He summoned the Azure Dragon battle armor, and a resounding dragon cry rang out. He shot toward the sea serpent. As the two of them repeatedly clashed in the air, the sea serpent suddenly roared, "Bastard, how can you possess true dragon might?" As soon as Long Chen had summoned the Azure Dragon battle armor, the 6-horned sea serpent had immediately felt a spiritual and bloodline suppression. This Azure Dragon reverse scale came from the martial heaven searing. "Did you not know of its existence?" asked Long Chen curiously. "So it was you who barged into the forbidden zone." The sea serpent came to a sudden realization. The Azure Dragon reverse scale had been in the sea for countless years. It had been noticed by the sea demon race many years ago, and the 6-horned sea serpent race had attempted to subdue it several times. However, they had been given a painful lesson as many of their top experts had their lives taken by the scale. Those who had dared to challenge the Azure Dragon reverse scale had been the strongest members of the 6-horned sea serpent race, the overlords of the sea demon race. However, 39 experts of that level had died. There was even one of the leaders of the six-horned sea serpent race who had died to it before fully transmitting their abilities to the next, resulting in 2 divine abilities being lost. Having been given a painful lesson, the six-horned sea serpent race had made the area around the Azure Dragon reverse scale a forbidden region. Even sea demons from other races did not dare to approach it. That place was a nightmare for them for many years. Now that Long Chen had summoned the Azure Dragon reverse scale, the sea serpent felt an immense pressure. Then, hearing that it was the result of the Azure Dragon reverse scale, he almost exploded in rage. The six-horned sea serpent race was the descendant of the six-horned water dragon and the heavenly unicorn sea serpent. The heavenly unicorn sea serpent had been an ancient beast with a powerful bloodline, and after mating with the six-horned water dragon, it had resulted in the six-horned sea serpent race, a race inheriting the divine abilities of both those 2 races. As a result, they also had dragon blood flowing within them. Hence, this sea serpent felt an even greater suppression from Long Chen than the Xian beasts. "Damn you! I'll tear you to pieces!" roared the sea serpent man. Thinking of how 39 of his race's peak experts had died in a vain attempt to subdue something that a human in the Life Star realm had subdued made him crazy. This was an absolute humiliation. "Then work hard. With your current level of power, it'll be very hard for you to achieve your grand aspiration," said Long Chen, repeatedly slashing Evil Moon. However, while Long Chen looked calm, he was shocked inside by how powerful this six-horned sea serpent was. Based on Long Chen's estimates, the bloodline suppression should make it so that this sea serpent man could only use a maximum of 80% of his power, but this 80% was enough for him to attack so strongly that Long Chen's arms tingled. The six-horned sea serpent man's true power was much greater than Kung Pingzi's and the others. As Long Chen fought his opponent, the Dragonblood Legion also started fighting the other sea demons. "Brothers, the meat has come." Guoran laughed and repeatedly shot his crossbow. Every arrow exploded amongst the army of sea demons, shooting out countless spikes. Even the sea demons with their tough scales and plate armor were unable to block those sharp spikes. Blood flew everywhere. Some spikes went through 5 or 6 bodies before running out of power. "Hee, Xiaqin is amazing. These piercing runes are monstrous." These were new arrows that Guoran had made, with Xiaqin applying special runes to them. They were made of the finest divine materials. Every arrow killed hundreds of sea demons. The satisfying feeling Guoran got made him cry out excitedly. However, the sea demons were endless and fast. Guoran only had time to shoot a dozen arrows before they arrived. Dragonblood brothers, arc-killing formation. Brothers and sisters of the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, protect the skies. Brothers of the Mo family, attack from the rear. Brothers of the heaven-splitting battle sect, there's nothing for you to do. You can just shout and cheer. Guoran quickly made arrangements for the warriors. The Dragonblood Legion's arc formation covered everyone, while the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows guarded the sky and Mo Gates' arrows shot from the back. Their entire formation was like an iron board. As for the heaven-splitting battle sect's disciples, there truly was nothing for them to do. If they stepped forward, it would affect the Dragonblood Legion's formation. Temporarily, they could only watch. Bao Buping and Chang Hao were irritated, but they also knew that now was not the time for them to take action. Sword chi, arrows, divine abilities, they rained down upon the sea demons. They were slaughtered rapidly. Seeing this, Bao Buping said, "Fine, these little shrimps aren't worth us attacking. When the big fish come, we'll go up." "This little bastard, when did he learn to talk big? When he gets back, I'll properly correct him," cursed the old man. But he was smiling. The Dragonblood Legion's formation was seamless and incredibly powerful. The sea demon army was repeatedly forced back, leaving behind mountains of corpses. The Dragonblood Legion's sword chi possessed a sharpness unique to sword cultivators. But in truth, it was impossible for Yu Zifeng to transmit his sword Dao to everyone. Furthermore, his comprehensions were his own and not suitable for others. Their terrifying sword chi was the result of the runes on their swords. Xia Chen had set up those runes to create an imitation of Yu Zifeng's sword Dao. Xia Chen had spent many years researching this kind of sword Dao rune. However, back then he hadn't had enough money, and his research had not borne fruit. After encountering Long Chen, he no longer had that restriction, and there was also a genius like Yu Zifeng whom he could model the sword qi after. This resulted in him finally coming up with this sword qi rune. While creating their armor and swords, he had also modified the sword qi runes on them to mix with the Dragonblood warrior's power, so that they could unleash a terrifying attack similar to the sword qi of sword cultivators. This sight made the experts from Pill Valley and the other powers sigh with relief that they hadn't charged in like this. Otherwise, they really would have taken hideous losses. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking rang out. The qi flow streams began to gush wildly. The third wave is starting. Everyone attack your bottlenecks. People began to shout. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. This was the best time to absorb the qi flow to break through their barriers. The qi flow streams grew stronger. The very essence of the world was flowing through them. The various leaders of the factions on the Martial Heaven continent began to shout, ordering their disciples to absorb as much of the qi flow as possible. The disciples within the streams of qi flow then attacked the barriers between them and the next realm. In an instant, countless people broke through, their auras rising. Within the qi flow streams, their advancements were incredibly easy. The Pill Fairy, Kun Pingzi, Tian Xiezi, Shui Luocha, and the others also started breaking through. In just 3 breaths' time, they went from the first heaven stage of life star to the second. Long Chen, if you won't let us absorb the qi flow, then you should also give up on absorbing it as well. In the worst case, we'll just return to the Martial Heaven Sea Ring and absorb it, while you will have missed your chance, declared the 6-horned sea serpent man. He was barely able to keep up with Long Chen due to the bloodline suppression, making him angry enough to cough up blood. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but there was the dragon blood suppression. How foolish! Did you drink too much seawater that your brain rotted? Do you think we didn't come prepared? Long Chen suddenly forced him back and took out a medicinal pill, popping it into his mouth. Heavens, that's a top-grade 11th tier pill. He's just stuffing them into his mouth. All the seniors from every faction stared in shock at Long Chen as he began to consume medicinal pills while fighting. Furthermore, they were all top-grade 11th tier pills. Actually, they were also tribulation pills, but Long Chen had covered up that fact. Top-grade pills might be shocking, but if they were also tribulation pills, that would drive people insane. An explosion came from within Long Chen's body. His 108,000 stars began to grow rapidly, and he stepped into the second heaven stage of life star. With Long Chen advancing, his power grew, causing him to suppress the 6-horned sea serpent man even more. In the first heaven stage, Long Chen hadn't had much of an advantage over him, but after reaching the second heaven stage, his 108,000 stars had doubled in size. His astral power and spiritual yuan had grown. Seeing Long Chen eat those incredibly precious pills like they were candy and his aura continuously rising, the 6-horned sea serpent man finally gave up. Bastard, just wait. With a swing of his trident, he retreated. Sea demon race, hear my orders. Follow me. Giving up on Long Chen, he went to a nearby qi flow stream. If you don't want to die, then scram. This qi flow stream contained hundreds of thousands of disciples from the righteous path. However, they were disciples of the sects that had betrayed the Martial Heaven Alliance. Seeing the sea demon army turn their sights on them, they turned green. They weren't the Dragonblood Legion and didn't dare to fight the sea demon race. They would be killed in just a few breaths' time, so they could only obediently leave. After leaving, they were lost. The surrounding qi flow streams had been occupied by the other top forces of the continent. The closest one to them was Pill Valley's stream. But the disciples inside glared at them menacingly. They clearly would not welcome them. On the other side was the Corrupt Path stream, and there was even less chance that they could go there. The disciples from the neutral factions looked at them scornfully, also not accepting traitors. The ancient races, the Xian beasts, the ancient family alliance always treated them coldly. They wouldn't share their qi flow streams with them. There were some smaller streams, but they were unwilling to go there. They were lost. The world was so big, but there was nowhere for them to go. They felt like they had lost their home. The sea demon race had forcibly occupied their territory, and they didn't even dare to make a sound. They felt like the world had discarded them. Come here. After all, we were once a family. Once the chi flow eruption is over, you can leave again. Yi Lingshan's voice rang out, causing those disciples' hearts to shake. They stared at her in disbelief. They had betrayed the Martial Heaven Alliance, so they hadn't expected that the Martial Heaven Alliance would extend a hand to them. Furthermore, for Yi Lingshan to say they had once been family, they were too ashamed to even go. Just come. If you miss this chance, you'll be too weak. When the powerful enemies come, how will you protect the people you want to protect? The righteous path is a family. Although you've left the Martial Heaven Alliance, you are still disciples of the righteous path. We fight for justice, to protect the people we love. Even though our paths are different, our goals are the same. Come, said Yi Lingshan. Even Chu Jianying was shocked that Yi Lingshan would say such a thing. Yi Lingshan had always detested the sects that had betrayed them. But now she was actually inviting them over. Chu Jianying slowly smiled. She now saw another kind of charisma from Yi Lingshan. She had grown up. The disciples behind Yi Lingshan weren't quite happy. They also hated these traitors, but they endured it and didn't say anything. At this moment, Yu Xiaoyun's expression changed as he thought of something. I, Zhao Qingyun, swear before all the experts of the world to rejoin the Martial Heaven Alliance. I pledge my undying loyalty to Sister Lingshan. If I betray this oath, let me forever be damned to hell and never reincarnate. One disciple took the lead, tearing off the mark of his sect from his robes and walking over to the Martial Heaven Alliance's side. Following that disciple, countless other disciples also swore their loyalty and rushed over to the Martial Heaven Alliance's side. Yu Xiaoyun immediately shouted, "Don't be impetuous, you can come to Pill Valley stream. Fuck your Pill Valley, don't think you can con me any longer. I can see your true face now. All that nonsense about thinking about the Martial Heaven continent and the lives on the continent was bullshit. Go home and eat shit," shouted one disciple amongst the crowd. "Li Song, get back here. Are you not going to listen to your master's words?" shouted one elder at his disciple. "A person with no morals who can be bought by Pill Valley isn't fit to be my master. Having kowtowed to your sect is my life's greatest shame," responded that disciple. "If it weren't for you, how could we end up in such a position, abandoned by everyone?" Li Song then tore off an arm. "I, Li Song, hereby sever my ties with the Clear Sea Gate. This arm was a medal of my sect, but today I swear to never use it again." A rune sealed the wound, making sure it wouldn't regrow. That disciple's actions moved countless righteous experts. He actually destroyed the grace that his sect had given him. It could be seen just how disappointed he was in his sect and master. Many of the disciples on the Martial Heaven Alliance's side felt their hatred vanish after seeing that display. They suddenly thought of a certain thing. Those sects that had betrayed the Martial Heaven Alliance were led by the sect leaders. Their disciples were mostly innocent. To be a disciple receiving a master's kindness was not something light. Cutting that tie could not be done casually. The Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples started to feel sympathy for them. Li Song was immediately embraced by another expert. That person said, "Brother, welcome home. All the people here are your life and death brothers." Li Song was so moved that he wept, warming other people's hearts. Hundreds of thousands of disciples now joined the Martial Heaven Alliance's side. No matter how their elders shouted or cursed at them, not one of them left. Yi Lingshan's kindness had won them over. They swore to themselves that even if they had to die, they would not betray the Martial Heaven Alliance. The old man and Chu Jianying exchanged a smile. Yi Lingshan had a different style than Chu Jianying, but she was also capable of making people fervently loyal to her. Yi Lingshan looked at Long Chen and saw him wink at her and raise a thumb. Yi Lingshan smiled. Just now, Long Chen had given her a nudge to do this. At that time, she had felt a bit unwilling because she truly did hate traitors. But now she understood. The label of traitor couldn't be tacked onto just anyone. Using just her heart to judge things would give her a skewed vision. These new disciples all looked at her with eyes full of gratitude and warmth. That was an extremely moving feeling. Steady yourselves. Don't get too emotional or you'll miss out on this chance. Quickly break through your shackles, reminded Yi Lingshan. Yes. All the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples, old and new, cried out in unison. Finally, there was a sense of unity amongst them. With every blink of an eye, thousands of experts broke through a realm. Not good. Chu Jianying's expression suddenly changed. What is it? Asked the old man and the others. The Dragonblood Legion's warriors have raised their cultivation bases very high. The majority have even reached the 5th or 6th heaven stage. They only have a limited amount of room to grow, while many of the disciples in the other powers are still in the 1st heaven stage. When everyone has reached the 9th heaven stage, there will be a large gap between them, said Chu Jianying. The old man nodded. This truly was a problem, but at this time, there was no way to change anything. At first, no one had known when the chi flow eruption would occur. Was it really possible to not cultivate all that time? What if the eruption didn't occur for 100 years? Were they supposed to wait a century? Everyone had only stopped cultivating when the phenomenon indicating that the chi flow eruption was coming had occurred. However, many of the Martial Heaven Continent's experts had reached the 4th or 5th heaven stage before that. Some people had even reached the 8th. Who were those people supposed to complain to? Every advancement you made within the chi flow stream would give you a huge boost in power. It would strengthen your manifestation and astral space. If one person made one advancement and another person made 8 advancements, a huge power gap would appear between them. That was what Chu Jianying was worried about. In the current battle, the Dragonblood warriors had an advantage with their cultivation bases. But once everyone's cultivation bases rose in the chi flow stream, that advantage would become a disadvantage. Don't worry, this is a problem Long Chen has definitely thought of. He has all kinds of crazy ideas, said the old man. All the experts in the chi flow streams were doing their best to blast through the heaven stages. They were like people about to die of thirst, a thirst that could only be quenched by absorbing the chi flow. Dongfang Yuyang has reached the 5th heaven stage. He's so fast, exclaimed someone from the Martial Heaven Alliance. To go from the 1st heaven stage to the 5th heaven stage, Dongfang Yuyang had only used half an incense stick's worth of time. Long Chen had also reached the 4th heaven stage. But will he really be alright? Chu Jianying's voice shuddered. In the distance, Long Chen was stuffing medicinal pills into his mouth with both hands. Sometimes he would choke and need a mouthful of wine to stuff the pills down. Even someone with as much experience as Chu Jianying shivered. The power of top-grade 11th tier pills was not to be underestimated. Not even the body of a Xian beast would be able to endure so many. Long Chen hadn't stopped stuffing his face since the start. That appearance was too shocking. Where did he get so many medicinal pills from? People were both shocked and envious. All those medicinal pills had been used up by Long Chen. For others, a top-grade 11th tier pill would be a priceless treasure. Some people had prepared 1 or 2 of those pills and had yet to consume them because they were saving them for the final breakthrough to the 9th heaven stage. On the other hand, Long Chen was consuming such treasures like they were food. People guessed that it was due to the support of the Huang sect. In the distance, the Huang sect's disciples were spread out, standing within the unremarkable small streams of chi flow. Without paying attention, they almost seemed invisible. The Huang sect didn't wish to fight. They had brought hundreds of thousands of disciples, all very low-key. They were quietly absorbing the chi flow from the outer streams. Fuck, how can they be so fast? Long Chen was raging inside as he crazily consumed pills. His cultivation base had reached the 5th heaven stage, but Dongfang Yuyang and the others had reached the 7th. He was already going as fast as he could. The swallow the heavens, devour the earth divine ability that Evil Moon had given him was at max power. The pills he was consuming were all top-grade tribulation pills. If it was anyone else, consuming 10 at the same time would make them explode from the energy inside. Those pills were being sucked into his body like a flood. His 108,000 astral spaces grew larger and larger, but even like this, he wasn't able to keep up with Dongfang Yuyang and the others. This was Long Chen's fastest advancement throughout history. With his divine ring behind him, the chi flow was rapidly being absorbed. Although he couldn't sense the blessing of the heavens, he could feel the energy of the chi flow mixing with the medicinal energy, multiplying his speed. Faster, faster, faster. Long Chen was starting to panic. If the chi flow eruption came to an end, he would not get a chance to advance so quickly anymore. In that case, Dongfang Yuyang and the others would have reached the Nether Passage realm, while he would be stuck in the Life Star realm. I have to go all out. Long Chen suddenly took out a barrel that was filled with Life Star pills, all top grade. Others almost ran over to snatch that barrel from his hands when they saw those pills. After that, Long Chen poured all those pills into his mouth. "Does he want to die?" cried one of the elders of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Rumbling rang out within Long Chen's body. The clothes on his upper body exploded, revealing his seemingly thin but extremely powerful body. His blood vessels began to bulge visibly under his skin. It was even possible to see his blood flowing rapidly within him. The sound of his blood was like 10,000 horses stampeding. Using external force is just a crooked cheat. He'll be the one to suffer in the end, sneered someone. Throughout all of history, no one had dared to consume so many pills at the same time. Perhaps Long Chen did have some secret art to absorb those pills, but using external force to explosively grow one's power like this was not in accordance with the heavenly Daos. There would definitely be some issues in the future. The Dragonblood warriors quickly reached the 9th heaven stage. At that point, they could no longer continue advancing. Upon reaching the 9th heaven stage, it was time to attempt breaking through to Nether Passage. Before that though, they needed some time to comprehend life and death energy. If they went straight to the full circle of Life Star, they wouldn't be leaving themselves enough time for that comprehension. Their cultivation base would then surpass their mental realm. That was a great taboo of cultivation. The Dragonblood warriors opened their eyes and felt their new power coursing through their veins. In particular, their astral spaces were many times larger than before. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's disciples had also advanced. Contrary to humans, the Xian beasts' advancements mostly focused on their physical body and purifying their bloodlines. The higher their cultivation bases grew, the purer their bloodlines became. The stronger they were, the stronger their descendants would be. Many of their powerful divine abilities could be transmitted through their bloodlines, which could benefit their descendants. Amongst the Dragonblood Legion, there was one person that was particularly special. From the start, he had just been sitting there, his head drooping. At this time, there was a sonorous snoring sound coming from him. Even at this time, he can sleep. Wild's really innocent. Guoran felt a bit of envy. Wild didn't feel the slightest nervousness about sleeping here. Perhaps he was the one with the happiest life. After eating his fill, Wild usually fell asleep. When he woke, he usually ate. Due to a lack of battles, he had managed to save up plenty of rations. He was now in a cycle of eating and sleeping, sleeping and eating. During this process, his body continued to get stronger. Even sitting, he was almost as tall as everyone standing. His aura only continued to grow more terrifying. Everyone in the Dragonblood Legion envied him. All Wild had to do was eat and sleep while they cultivated as if their lives depended on it. Long Chen continued taking out more and more barrels of medicinal pills, making people crazy. They suspected that they were in a dream. Since when did the Martial Heaven continent have so many top-grade 11th tier pills? Every barrel had to contain several 100,000 top-grade pills. Most rank 9 Celestials didn't even have one such pill. Only Empyreans with awakened manifestations were qualified to possess 1 or 2 such pills. Most of those pills had been purchased from Pill Valley and the Huang sect at a high price. They had been prepared specifically for the Qi flow eruption. Long Chen's cultivation base soared. He went straight to the 6th, 7th, 8th, and then 9th heaven stage. At the 9th heaven stage, blood began to leak out of his skin. This crazy advancement was too much for his body. Ignoring that, he continued consuming pills. His eyes were scarlet, looking like he had gone insane. This was a sign of pill toxins overwhelming him. It was sometimes said that top-grade pills didn't have pill toxins and could be consumed without worry. However, in reality, every pill was part medicine and part poison. Even top-grade pills were not an exception. It was just that their toxic effect was so small that it was usually irrelevant. Eating one could be ignored. But eating hundreds of thousands all at once made it significant. As those pills' toxins accumulated, they only grew worse. However, Long Chen had no time to expel those toxins. Others were done upon reaching the 9th heaven stage, but he wasn't. The final 3 heaven stages of the 9-star Hegemon body art were the ones that required the most energy. He continued taking out barrels. Suddenly, an explosion came from his body, and his skin split open. Blood covered his body. Upon reaching the 10th heaven stage, his body immediately began to fall apart. But he didn't stop. "Long Chen, have you gone crazy? You have to stop," shouted Chu Jianying. Long Chen indicated to her not to worry and continued stuffing himself with pills. At this time, several terrifying auras rose. Dongfang Yuyang and the others had advanced to the 9th heaven stage of Life Star. Dongfang Yuyang, Shimentianxiong, Kunpingzi, Tian Xiezi, Shilingfeng, Shui Luocha, Nangong Zhu, Beiting Rushuang, all the experts on that level had advanced. Mo Nian had as well. However, compared to other people, their advancements were a bit different. Their manifestations began to transform. Their manifestations became full of life and color. Spirit blood activates, talent awakens, manifestation achieves spirituality. Haha. Shilingfeng laughed wildly as a giant figure stood behind him. That was an expert of the stone race covered in crystals. There was a third eye on his forehead. His gaze was icy and a terrifying pressure came from him. The three-eyed stone emperor, Shi Changxing. The senior generation cried out as they recognized the person within Shilingfeng's manifestation. That was Shi Changxing. Stone forest manifests long life. Shilingfeng shouted. His manifestation rumbled as immense power shot out of it. Mountains collapsed, and even the chi flow stream he was in twisted. When Shilingfeng shouted the name of his manifestation, the wind and clouds flickered. A sacred energy came from Shilingfeng. At this time, Long Chen wasn't paying attention to anything outside himself. He was still crazily consuming pills. Another explosion came from his body, and his flesh split open. The 11th heaven stage. Good. I hope I can make it in time. Long Chen's eyes were red as the pill toxins grew worse. But without hesitation he consumed more pills. These pills had been refined by the moon and star refining furnace. The more pills it refined, the greater its power grew. Several new runes had activated within it. The runes could create 9 smaller furnaces within it, allowing it to refine 9 furnaces of pills at one time. During the past few days, Long Chen hadn't done anything other than refining Life Star pills. Now they finally had a use. However, after reaching the 9th heaven stage, Long Chen suppressed his aura, not allowing others to sense his aura continuing to explode. Otherwise, they would suspect something about his 9-star Hegemon body art. As a result of suppressing his aura, the impact on his body worsened, making each advancement cause an even greater pressure on his body. Dongfang Yuyang and the others' auras transformed. Heaven and earth were shaking due to their existence. Even amongst the heavenly geniuses present, they were clearly marked as the true favorites of the world, the future rulers of the continent. The chi flow streams had yet to stop, but they were starting to show signs of weakening. The chi flow eruption was nearing its end. When people looked toward the sea demon race, their hearts shook. There were actually 5 experts amongst the sea demons who had similar auras as Shimentianxiong and the others. Their spirit blood had been activated. However, those 5 didn't move after activating their spirit blood. They simply stood guard over the 6-horned sea serpent man. His eyes were closed, and it seemed he was still a bit away from reaching full power. Seeing that Long Chen still focused on advancing, a cold light appeared in Shilingfeng's eyes. He suddenly shot over to the Dragonblood Legion. "Long Chen, I can't wait any longer. I'll take your head right now. Shi Feng shot over on his own. The ground split open as Li Qi and Song Mingyuan both summoned an earth giant. The two earth giants swung giant hammers at Shi Feng. Scram! In front of my current self, you are just two ants. Golden light radiated out of Shi Feng. He punched, and the figure within his manifestation also punched. A giant fist landed, shattering space. The immense power blew apart the earth giants before the first even touched them. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan's expressions changed. They began to summon one giant earth wall after another. The earthen walls were destroyed one by one. A total of 118 of them were blown through before that single fist's power was exhausted. Is this the power of activating one's spirit blood and fully awakening a heaven's soul manifestation? People were shocked by this scene. The current Shi Feng could no longer be compared to the old Shi Feng. A prerequisite to activating a heaven's soul manifestation is activating the spirit blood. Only with the spirit blood awakened is it possible to connect to a heaven's soul manifestation. Now, not only has Shi Feng awakened the power of his bloodline, but he can also use the Stone Emperor's divine abilities through his manifestation. There might not be anyone who can stop him, sighed another person. Have a taste of another punch. Shi Feng attacked once more. Boom. This time, the fist exploded halfway there. It was blown to bits by an arrow. Even receiving 100 punches would be no problem. Mo Nian had stepped forward. The two figures within his manifestation were finally clear. They were two handsome men with sharp eyes. The two of them didn't seem to be emitting any fluctuations or giving off any sense of danger, but the laws of heaven and earth were drawn to them. The bow in Mo Nian's hand began to buzz. At some unknown time, a pair of arm protectors with gloves that didn't cover his fingers had appeared on his arms. The black bracers had blood-colored runes pulsing on them in accordance with his manifestation. Mo Nian pulled back the bowstring, and a translucent arrow appeared. A giant whirlpool showed up around Mo Nian. In the instant that he pulled back the bowstring, all the surrounding baleful qi was absorbed by his arrow. Mo Gate hidden dual sages. Mo Nian's manifestation shook. His arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning. Shi Feng had no chance to dodge it. The energy of heaven and earth had locked this arrow onto him. With a shout, he crossed his arms in front of him. The figure within his manifestation also crossed its arms. Mo Nian's arrow smashed into both sets of arms. Shi Feng was forced back, leaving a long ditch in the ground. This is the power of a heaven's soul manifestation? It's too powerful. Just being struck by the outer edges is enough to destroy us. Other Empyreans stared in shock at this power. Mo Nian immediately pulled back his bowstring and unleashed another arrow. All the experts were shocked. Was this terrifying arrow just a casual attack? Was it nothing more than an ordinary attack for the current Mo Nian? Was he really human? Boom. Shi Feng smashed his fist forward, blasting apart the arrow, but he was forced back 9 steps, the earth crumbling with each step. Some weaker people in the chi flow streams in his path were forced to flee upon seeing him stumbling into their area. Mo Nian, I didn't expect your Mo family would transform 2 skeletons into your Mo Gate's inherited manifestation. How laughable. Shui Luocha tottered over to Mo Nian, her meteor hammer in her hand. Mo Nian's expression immediately darkened, a vein pulsing on his forehead. The Blood Emperor's family is full of ungrateful pieces of shit. If I don't slaughter you today, I won't be called Mo Nian. Multiple arrows shot out. The Mo family is just a dog my Shui family raised. If you were obedient, we'd treat you well. If you weren't, then we'd kill you for meat. What's wrong with that? Shui Luocha sneered. An imposing man with a crown on his head appeared within her manifestation, unleashing a wave of divine might. She smashed her meteor hammer at him. Following Shui Luocha, all the ancient family alliance's disciples were forced to flee. Powerful explosions shook the sky as the meteor hammer blasted through the arrows. Some of the slower disciples to run were blown away, coughing up blood. Slut, I'll definitely kill you today. Mo Nian roared, truly infuriated. 10,000 arrows shot out of his bow, raining down on Shui Luocha. Shui Luocha was enveloped by the rain of arrows, but even from within that rain of arrows, she sent her meteor hammer smashing toward Emon Yen. As Emon Yen and Shui Luocha began a berserk fight, Shi Feng rushed back, going toward Long Chen, who was still consuming pills. Kill Long Chen together. Tian Xiezi also stepped forward. Unexpectedly, a divine halo appeared behind his head. A divine sun? Shocked cries rang out. After awakening his heaven's soul manifestation, Tian Xiezi had actually gained the approval of the corrupt god and was blessed by the divine halo, turning him into the corrupt path's divine sun. Kuan Pingzi and Dongfang Yuyang also took action, taking advantage of this time. The curious thing was that Shimin Tianxiong, who had previously attacked, was now just quietly looking at Long Chen, seeming to be thinking about something. Boss isn't ready yet. We'll win time for him, said Guoran solemnly. No need. I'm done. Suddenly, Long Chen stopped stuffing pills into his mouth. Just at this moment, the chi flow streams slowed down and faded away. The earth closed once more. Boss. Guoran and the others were shocked by Long Chen's current state. He was covered in blood, and even his bones were exposed in several spots. His eyes were fiery red, and his aura was completely unstable. It looked like he might explode at any moment. I'm fine. Fall back to the exit. I'll handle things here. Long Chen's voice was so hoarse that it was almost unrecognizable. Guoran waved his hand, and the Dragonblood warriors jumped onto the backs of the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows. They retreated, leaving only Long Chen. Die! Tian Xiezi, Kuan Pingzi, Shi Feng, and Dongfang Yuyang attacked at the same time. Streaks of divine light shot at Long Chen. Scram! Long Chen suddenly let out a furious roar that was like thunder. A berserk aura erupted out of his control. Dongfang Yuyang had barely gotten close to Long Chen when a terrifying chi wave blasted them back. It was like a star had exploded, and the four of them were unable to resist. What? The four of them were shocked, and their first guess as to what had just happened was that Long Chen had exploded. Otherwise, there was no way that just his aura could force them back. The others watching were also stunned. Chi waves continued to surge out of Long Chen with such power that the laws of the heavenly Daos crumbled around him. In that instant, Long Chen seemed to be isolated by the rest of the world. Without a heaven's soul manifestation, without the support of the heavenly Daos, without any aura of some ancient power, how does he possess such might? It seems to be pure world energy, but how could his world energy be so terrifying? If it really is pure world energy, then his astral space has to be unimaginably big. It can actually go against the laws of the martial heaven continent. All kinds of guesses were made. Long Chen's power could only be described as terrifying. From ancient times to now, there had never been a case of someone whose world energy could reach such a level. Long Chen spread his arms and roared. A blast of power caused the world to collapse around him. The collapsed space spread as if he was hammering it over and over again. Tian Xiezi, Kuan Pingzi, Shi Feng, and Dongfang Yuyang were forced to back further away. 12 blasts came from Long Chen's body. Standing within a giant hole, Long Chen looked like a devil god. His eyes were scarlet, and his black hair whipped around him. The 108,000 stars within his body had linked up into one giant starry diagram. With it, he felt as if he controlled the power of a whole cosmos. Every star had grown to a size of 300,000 miles. When he advanced to the 12th Heavenstage, his power could no longer be controlled, and he was forced to allow it to explode outside of him. It was like a dam being released, and as his power blasted out of him, he felt a sense of relief. I refuse to believe this. Shi Feng roared. Long Chen was actually more powerful, more terrifying than before. He could not accept this. The Stone Emperor within his manifestation unleashed a punch at Long Chen. You can refuse to believe it, but you'll have to believe this. Long Chen smiled. The world trees in his primal chaos space rapidly withered as he drew out their life energy to heal. He only managed to fully recover when they were completely withered. My physical body is now so strong that the world trees aren't able to keep up anymore. Long Chen clenched his fist. The growth of his astral spaces had forced his physical body to also become stronger. He quickly put on a new set of black robes made personally by Chu Yao. In his new robes, he looked even more striking. Boom! Long Chen didn't accumulate any power and just let out a simple punch. It was no magical art or battle skill. It was a simple punch backed by the power overflowing from him. However, this simple punch brought with it the sound of heaven and earth collapsing. This was a power that exceeded people's understanding. Long Chen's punch not only blasted through the fist from the figure in Shi Lingfeng's manifestation, but it also struck Shi Lingfeng's fist. In front of everyone's shocked gazes, Shi Lingfeng's arm exploded, all the way up to his shoulder. Long Chen quickly followed up with a kick to Shi Lingfeng's abdomen, and the latter screamed. A hole appeared in his abdomen and golden blood flowed out. He shot back like a cannonball. Shi Lingfeng's manifestation stamped on the ground, trying to stabilize him, but Long Chen's power was so great that he continued flipping through the air. After flipping 3 times, Shi Lingfeng finally managed to stop. He had just barely stabilized himself with his manifestation when Long Chen appeared next to him like a gust of wind, unleashing another simple punch. With just one arm, Shi Lingfeng didn't dare to block it. He slammed a palm on the ground, while his manifestation unleashed another punch. He flew away. However, he was prepared this time, and his other arm regrew. He formed hand seals. Earth energy, heavenly stone source, stone ramparts raise the heavens. His manifestation stamped on the ground, and one giant stone wall after another appeared. There were 36 of them buying him time. Long Chen shot through the stone walls. Those incredibly tough and thick walls were like piles of flour in front of him. A black shadow passed through them. The 36 stone walls were instantly pierced through. Long Chen's foot stamped onto Shi Lingfeng's chest, so hard that a bulge appeared on his back. His body was almost stamped through. Shi Lingfeng was sent flying once more. Everyone was flabbergasted as they saw Long Chen completely crush Shi Lingfeng. Heaven-defying, absolutely heaven-defying. Is Long Chen really human? Shi Lingfeng had activated his spirit blood and connected to his manifestation. His power had soared, yet he was still beaten by Long Chen to the point of being unable to retaliate. Stone Emperor Spirit, Bloodline Summons. Shi Lingfeng roared. Golden blood flowed out of his nose, eyes, ears, and mouth, turning his entire body golden. The figure within his manifestation rumbled and gradually merged with him. Shi Lingfeng's aura became ancient and domineering. He's actually igniting his spirit blood. Startled cries rang out. Shi Lingfeng had managed to revitalize his spirit blood, so it was no longer like the ordinary spirit blood of other experts. It contained the power of his inheritance and was incomparably precious. This kind of spirit blood was not replenishable. Every bit he used up would be gone forever. Once he used it all up, he would never be able to connect to his manifestation again. Shi Lingfeng let out a bestial roar that created waves in the surrounding space. Long Chen, I'll tear your corpse to pieces. This grand aspiration is something you'll never achieve in this lifetime. Long Chen faced the golden Shi Lingfeng directly. Long Chen's fist struck Shi Lingfeng's wild attack and caused the ground to sink. Support Shi Lingfeng. Dongfang Yuyang immediately rushed over, getting a bad feeling upon seeing that even while igniting his spirit blood, Shi Lingfeng was unable to beat Long Chen. Once Shi Lingfeng's spirit blood was used up, there would be no chance of defeating Long Chen. Dongfang Yuyang rushed over with his spear and shield. An ancient aura spread out of him. Kunpingzi and Tian Xiezi also attacked. Kunpingzi's Kunping manifestation became golden, and divine light flowed from it into Kunpingzi's body. His lightning halberd rumbled. Tian Xiezi's divine halo glowed. The corrupt god's figure within his manifestation also enveloped Tian Xiezi in divine light. An evil air unfurled. With just a wave of his hand, death filled the air. Boom! The 4 of them attacked at the same time, causing heaven and earth to collapse. However, what shocked everyone was that all 4 of them shot back, coughing up blood. A pillar of light was at the center of their battlefield. That sight reminded people of the chi flow streams. However, this pillar of light centered around Long Chen. His divine ring spun rapidly. The 5-point star within the divine ring had been replaced with a 6-sided design. The 6-sided design had 5 bright stars and 1 very dim star. The dim star was the Nethergate star that he had just recently condensed. This star had yet to go through the 9-star transformations, and so he was unable to summon the true 6-star battle armor. However, just its existence was enough to make Long Chen's aura grow explosively. Long Chen took 8 steps through the air, each step causing his aura to grow more and more. At the 8th step, he raised his saber. Split the heavens 8. A black saber image fell from the 9 heavens like a black river of stars, bringing with it endless destructive power. Dongfang Yuyang's expression changed. Long Chen's attack was targeted on him. A ruthless expression appeared on his face. He put away his spear and shield. Pressing his palms together, the Dongfang family's ancient castle appeared in the air. Dongfang Yuyang had summoned the Dongfang family's treasure, the astral ancient castle. The giant castle immediately lit up, and the formation at the heart of the castle unleashed a wave of light. This castle was a battle fort that had only been used during the most intense battles of history. That was because the cost of using it was too great. Although Dongfang Yuyang had used it before, he had only utilized some of its simple functions. But now, he was activating its true defense, which came at a huge cost. Boom! Long Chen's saber struck the ancient castle, causing ripples to spread in every direction. Even the people in the distance felt suffocated in the face of that pressure. The ground cracked in every direction. However, Long Chen's attack was unable to damage the ancient castle. Boss, this ancient castle has countless formations supporting it and an endless source of energy. You can't break it, messaged Xiaoqin. This battle fort was used for large-scale battles. Hence, there was a huge amount of energy stored inside it. Without exhausting all that energy, it would not break. Then I'll hit it until it breaks. Long Chen slashed his saber once more. Just from Dongfang Yuyang and the other experts of the Dongfang family's pained expressions, he could tell that the cost of using this ancient castle was extremely high. Boom! Once more, his attack was unable to cause any damage. He had barely unleashed his attack when Kun Pingzi's sharp attack came from the side. Scram! Long Chen slashed Evil Moon to the side, sending Kun Pingzi flying. Kun Pingzi was appalled by Long Chen's destructive power. Just that one swing caused him to almost cough up blood. How could this happen? I've awakened an inherited heaven's soul manifestation. How am I still unable to defeat him? Kun Pengzi was gloomy-faced. When he had attacked the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, Long Chen hadn't been a match for him. If Amon Yen hadn't been there, he would have had absolute confidence in killing Long Chen. However, now, he was unable to even receive a single blow from Long Chen. This made no sense. Corrupt God gaze. Tian Xiezi formed hand seals in the sky, and the corrupt God image within his manifestation unleashed a ray of light from its eyes. Long Chen's heart shook. Lightning wings spread on his back and he dodged. That ray of light pierced through the ground, and the earth rapidly turned black. The stone walls from Shilingfeng that had been destroyed now began to rot. What a terrifying curse energy! Long Chen was stunned. This was a curse containing divine energy. Touching it meant death. Get out of my way! Long Chen's life is mine. Suddenly, a furious roar rang out. A man with 6 horns on his head charged over, his bone trident slamming toward Long Chen. This expert of the 6-horned sea serpent race had finally woken, and a divine ring had appeared behind his back. However, this divine ring was a reflection of the martial heaven Searing. A huge amount of power surged into him. Searing buries all life. When he shouted the name of his manifestation, the world shuddered. The martial heaven Searing surged with angry waves. All the disciples were shocked by this power. It was no wonder their seniors had told them not to become enemies with the sea demon race. With the manifestation of the martial heaven searing, this six-horned sea serpent's young king seemed to be able to control the entire sea by himself. This was a power that sparked despair. Boom! The six-horned man crashed into Long Chen. Their two divine rings shuddered, with heaven and earth resonating. Their immense power caused the stars in the sky to shudder. Fragments of spacetime flew out as the laws of the world were shattered. The people outside were no longer able to see what was happening inside. Their power is already capable of affecting spacetime. That's just terrifying, sighed one of the seniors. That six-horned sea serpent should be a young king of his race. All the martial heaven searing's karmic luck is probably supporting him. It's no wonder none of the seniors of the sea demon race came. They have absolute confidence in him. And most terrifying of all, he will only continue to grow stronger. But Long Chen's not weaker than him. He's actually able to fight against him. In comparison, the others seem inferior. After sensing the immense power possessed by Long Chen and the Horned Man, it was clear that Dongfang Yuyang, Tian Xiezi, Kun Pingzi, and Shiling Feng had been pushed aside. The center of the battlefield began to sink while the surrounding land was rising. The terrain was completely transformed by their power. This was a world-destroying battle. Suddenly, an intense explosion unleashed two counterimposing blazes of light that split the world in two. Long Chen and the Horned Man appeared on opposite ends. Long Chen rested Evil Moon on his shoulder and slowly floated into the air. His divine ring shook, and stars circulated in his eyes. The Horned Man was truly very powerful. His power was practically endless. But Long Chen's battle intent only grew against a powerful opponent. The Horned Man also looked to be full of battle intent. He was a king amongst the sea demon race, a leader of the entire martial heaven searing. He had never encountered someone who was a match for him. However, today he had been slapped in the face twice as soon as he stepped onto the continent, filling him with rage. Die! Suddenly, the six horns on his head lit up at the same time. His blood chi ignited, and specks of starry light appeared within the searing behind him. Following that, a strange image appeared within the searing, and bloodline power began to extend throughout the world. After taking a step, his trident pierced forward with a frightening sound. You want to rely on external power? Then I won't stand on courtesy either. Long Chen could see that the image within the searing was a totem art. It was a secret art of the six-horned sea serpent race to absorb external energy. Evilmoon's dragon images lit up, and Long Chen's originally white scales became infected by its black aura, turning them into alternating black and white. At the same time, Long Chen's own blood chi rumbled as Evil Moon loaned him its evil dragon energy. After awakening, Evil Moon had completely transformed. A resounding dragon cry rang out as Long Chen and Evil Moon once more joined forces. They began to clash against the bone trident, unleashing huge ripples with every exchange. Blinding light stabbed people's eyes. Bastard, how can this be? The Horned Man raged, feeling like he was going crazy. With the power of the Azure Dragon and the Evil Dragon mixed together, Long Chen's bloodline power was suppressing him once more. After activating his spirit blood, linking to his manifestation, and having the support of the martial heaven searing, the Horned Man had managed to resist the suppression of the Azure Dragon battle armor. However, now with the power of two dragons shooting out of Long Chen's body, the Horned Man was getting suppressed again, which made him angry enough to cough up blood. Evil Moon continued to press down on him. He was feeling weaker. Although he roared furiously, that didn't change anything. He was constantly forced back. Damn you! The Horned Man was so furious that veins almost popped on his forehead. As the dragon might suppressed him, his power began to drop. If you have any ability, put away your dragon pressure and let's have a real fight. If you have the ability, put away your manifestation and let's have a real fight, replied Long Chen. The Horned Man almost coughed up blood. Without his manifestation, how was he supposed to fight against Long Chen's terrifying world energy? Just at this moment, a lightning halberd shot over. Kun Pingzi was attacking Long Chen from behind. Long Chen swung his saber, but this time, his arm shook. When he looked more closely, he realized that there were 2 different blood qis coming from Kunpingzi's body. With the power of these 2 blood qis, Kunpingzi's manifestation was bestowing him even greater power. 2 differently colored blood qis. Kunpingzi has condensed a chain of his spirit blood to reach through his inherited manifestation and utilize the Pring Emperor's power. Cried one expert. Die! Tian Xiezi also attacked. The soul-summoning banner appeared, unleashing rays of evil light that slashed at Long Chen like blades. The sound of ghosts wailing stabbed into people's minds. Long Chen didn't dare to face those directly. His lightning wings spread, blocking the light from the soul-summoning banner. Dongfang Yuyang and Shiling Feng also attacked. Dongfang Yuyang shouted, "Friend from the 6-horned sea serpent race, Long Chen has a natural advantage over you. You can find something else to do if you want." The horned man was fuming. With the dragon suppression, he was unable to properly release his full power. Hearing Dongfang Yuyang's suggestion, he suddenly eyed the Dragonblood Legion. "That's good too. I'll kill his companions and make him depressed." The horned man abandoned his fight with Long Chen, going straight toward the Dragonblood Legion. "Fool, I'd advise you not to go." Seeing the man from the 6-horned sea serpent man leave him, Long Chen smiled. "Worry about yourself." Dongfang Yuyang was pleased with this turn of events and even used the astral ancient castle to keep Long Chen tied down here so he couldn't help the Dragonblood Legion. The 6-horned sea serpent man flew straight to the Dragonblood Legion. Seeing that, Chu Jianying was about to give the order to support the Dragonblood Legion when Yu Shaoyun and the others appeared in front of them. "What? Does the Martial Heaven Alliance wish to continue harboring rebels?" sneered Yu Shaoyun. All the experts from Pill Valley, the Ancient Races, the Corrupt Path, the Ancient Family Alliance, and the Shen Beasts had come. The old man smiled and reached for the heaven-splitting blade on his back. "Haha." Just at this moment, Guarant's arrogant laughter rang out. "Little fellow, you couldn't beat my boss, so you want to run rampant here? Are you sure you weren't dropped on the head as a child? Be careful of being beaten to the point that not even your mother recognizes you." "Die, ants!" The 6-horned sea serpent man roared, raising his trident. "Wild, wake up. Someone's stealing your meat." Guaran suddenly shouted into the ear of the sleeping Wild. "What?" Wild instantly shot up, furious. He immediately saw the 6-horned sea serpent man. "No, he's the real food." When Wild saw him, his eyes lit up. Looking like a hungry beast, Wild shot toward him without any further prompting from Guaran. "Stop and let me eat you." The 6-horned sea serpent man stumbled, almost tripping. His expression twisted in fury. Long Chen's slaps had been infuriating enough, but now he was actually being treated as food? He slammed his bone trident at Wild. "Die!" Wild smashed his giant bone club forward. As a result, Wild went flying, flipping through the air. This result shocked Chu Jianying and the others. This giant foolish oaf was actually able to block the 6-horned sea serpent man? In their opinion, Wild should have been directly killed by his terrifying power. Boom! Wild crawled up from the ground, roared, and once more charged forward, a bloodthirsty light in his eyes. As he charged forward, his body began to grow. A terrifying blood chi rose out of him, and spots of silver started to appear on his skin until his entire body turned silver. He had transformed into a 300-meter giant. Seeing this silver giant, everyone, including the 6-horned sea serpent man, jumped in shock. How could a human become so big? Is he from the legendary ancient barbarian race? How is that possible? Weren't they all killed off a long time ago? Cried out an extremely old-looking elder. "I'll beat you to death." Wild's bone club grew with him, and he smashed it down. Only then did the 6-horned sea serpent man recover from his shock and hastily raise his bone trident. A huge wave of earth exploded beyond the horizon. The distant experts were forced to dodge. As others were stunned by the sight, Long Chen smiled ever so slightly. Wild had eaten so much that he started to get picky about his food. He only wanted peak 12th rank magical beasts to eat now, and only those with powerful physical bodies at that. He had transformed from his original copper body to silver body, and furthermore, there was some faint gold color on his hands, feet, knees, elbows, and shoulders. From Yu Shihan, Long Chen had learned that due to eating so much, Wild had broken past the limit of the barbarian blood-silver body and was starting to turn golden. Yu Shihan said that Wild possessed the emperor bloodline amongst the barbarian race, the blood barbarian. They awaken the power of their bloodline purely by eating meat. As long as Wild had enough meat, he could eat to the peak of the martial Dao. In the entire Dragonblood Legion, the only one who could match Long Chen in power was Wild. The outsiders present had not expected there to be another such existence within the Dragonblood Legion. Bastard die! The six-horned sea serpent man was shocked and enraged. This blow had caused his arms to feel numb. Using some unknown secret art, he also grew larger and once more raised his trident. As a result, Wild's club came sweeping toward him, and Wild didn't even look at the trident. It looked like a suicidal exchange of death blows, dumbfounding the six-horned sea serpent man. They had just started exchanging blows. Was this oaf really a fool? He naturally refused such an exchange. His hurried block resulted in him being blown into the distance. He furiously got back up and stabbed his trident at Wild's chest, the tip shining with a cold light. However, Wild continued to ignore him. No matter what attack the six-horned sea serpent man used, Wild would simply launch his own attack and ignore the six-horned sea serpent man. As his trident was about to stab into Wild's chest, Wild's club also reached his chest. The six-horned sea serpent man felt like he would explode in fury. Was this fellow an idiot? At that critical moment, he hastily switched to defense, resulting in him being sent flying once more. The experts in the distance stood with their jaws hanging open. So the Dragonblood Legion had been hiding such a terrifying expert. It even seemed that Wild was stronger than Long Chen, as he had sent this terrifying expert flying twice in a row. Bastard, do you want to try it again? This time, the six-horned sea serpent man went through with his attack, stabbing his trident into Wild's chest. However, he suddenly found that he was unable to push it more than a few inches in. Wild's physical body had reached an unimaginable level. It was even tougher than a divine item. Just at that moment, Wild's club smashed into his ribs. He felt a sharp pain and was once more sent flying. Fresh blood flowed out of Wild's chest. However, he simply rubbed his chest forcibly and the blood flow ceased. With an angry howl, he charged forward once more, seemingly fine. The two of them began a fierce fight. After a while, the six-horned sea serpent man coughed up blood, not from being injured but from rage. Wild was fighting like an idiot, thinking only of how to attack without caring about being struck. He had no variations at all. The six-horned sea serpent man had never encountered such a fighting style, and worst of all, Wild's physical body was even stronger than his. His injuries simply automatically healed. The reason the six-horned sea serpent man had coughed up blood in particular was because after one exchange, Wild had taken out something and popped it into his mouth. He had seen it clearly. That was a peak 12th rank magical beast that had been compressed by spatial laws. Wild had actually gotten hungry and was really viewing him as food. Fuck you all, you bastards conned me. The six-horned sea serpent man refused to keep fighting. He ran back toward Long Chen's battlefield, cursing Dongfang Yuyang and the others. At first, he had thought that they weren't that bad, helping him hold back Long Chen while he vented his rage from Long Chen's dragon might. However, there was actually someone even more terrifying in the Dragonblood Legion, a complete idiot who couldn't be reasoned with. The six-horned sea serpent man felt used. His bone trident went smashing for Kunpingzi. Shocked, Kunpingzi's hasty block resulted in him coughing up blood. Have you gone crazy? Raged Kunpingzi. You dare to curse me? The six-horned sea serpent man was about to attack Kunpingzi again when Wild caught up to him, once more smashing with his club and sending him flying. At this moment, the other sea demons charged forward in a wave. Seeing their leader at a disadvantage, they were no longer content to keep watching. Those sea demons collapsed on Wild, Kunpingzi, and Long Chen. Some of them even went after Dongfang Yuyang, Tianxiezi, and Shilingfeng. The battlefield was submerged by their giant army, throwing everything into chaos. What is going on? Chu Jianying and the others were simply dumbfounded. They didn't even know how to react to such a twist. You water-headed idiots, why are you attacking us? Cursed Shilingfeng. Immediately, a mass of sea demons attacked him from every direction. It seemed that they didn't like being called waterheads. There's a chance. As the battlefield was thrown into chaos, Long Chen's eyes suddenly brightened. Forcing back Dongfang Yang, he turned into a bolt of lightning, charging through the sea demons toward Shilingfeng. Shilingfeng was besieged by the sea demons, and he was infuriated that they were attacking him. He furiously exchanged a head-on clash with one of the sea demons' 5 top experts who had awakened Heaven's soul manifestations. The result was that they both retreated. Watch out, warned Kunpingzi. He had noticed Long Chen silently appear behind Shilingfeng. He wanted to go help, but he was blocked by the sea demons. He didn't really care about Shilingfeng. They were simply joining hands against a common enemy. But since the enemy of my enemy is my friend, he worried about how to handle Long Chen without Shilingfeng in the picture. Shilingfeng turned around thanks to Kunpingzi's warning. He only managed to see Long Chen smile coldly at him and slash Evil Moon down. Shilingfeng went all out defending, only to have both arms break from Long Chen's saber. At the same time, Long Chen stamped his foot into Shilingfeng's chest and brought him flying through the air, blasting through any sea demons in their way. Shilingfeng roared, trying to struggle. But Long Chen's foot was in his chest and he had no arms to fight with. Long Chen was bringing Shilingfeng outside the army of sea demons, causing Kunpingzi and the others' expressions to completely change. They immediately tried to go save him. Facing Long Chen alone, Shilingfeng would probably only be able to last a few exchanges. Lightning wings appeared on Long Chen's back, increasing his speed. He quickly charged out of the sea demons and slammed Shilingfeng into the ground. Upon contact with the ground, his arms quickly regrew. However, just at that moment, Evil Moon slashed through his neck, sending his head flying. Long Chen caught Shilingfeng's head. For a moment, everyone was simply stunned. The Stone Race's experts paused midway before rushing over. Power gathered in Long Chen's palm. That explosive power would make Shilingfeng's head explode with just a thought. Long Chen don't. Beitang Rushuang and Nangong Zuyu cried out at almost the same time. Chu Jianying's expression was also nervous. She wanted to say something, but the old man shook his head, not letting her waste the effort. Long Chen, I don't believe you dare to kill me. Even with just his head, with his life in Long Chen's hands, Shilingfeng was curiously confident. Oh! Long Chen raised Shilingfeng's head to eye level. If you kill me, my Stone Race's ancestral heroic spirit, Shi Changxing, will appear. I've awakened a Heaven's soul manifestation and have linked up with his ancestral spirit. If I die, he will manifest here and slaughter all of you. None of you can stop him. Hee, that's why I can kill you, but you can't kill me. Are you angry? Depressed? Ha! Shilingfeng laughed. Long Chen, he's telling the truth. If you kill him, Shi Changxing's heroic spirit will appear. No one is capable of stopping him. But even though you can't kill him, you can imprison him, said Beitang Rushuang. Long Chen smiled to Beitang Rushuang in thanks. Beitang Rushuang relaxed, only for her heart to turn cold in the next instant. Long Chen said, I don't know if you've heard this, but in this world, there is nothing that I, Long Chen, do not dare do. Long Chen squeezed his hand, and Shilingfeng's head exploded. Everything went deathly silent. Even the army of sea demons stopped and rushed over to the side of the 6-horned sea serpent man. Count yourself vicious. Little fellow, if you don't die today, we'll settle this debt in the future. The 6-horned sea serpent man was also seemingly affected and brought the sea demon army running away. This bastard really caused a calamity. Who can stop the Stone Emperor's heroic spirit? Chu Jianying began to panic. At the spot where Shilingfeng's head was, a golden rune floated. That golden rune began to tremble with a terrifying might. It's over. Long Chen has gone crazy. No one can save him. Beitang Rushuang held her head helplessly. Long Chen suddenly vanished. A moment later, a black bolt of lightning slashed down on a distant battlefield. What? He wants to kill Xue Luocha as well. Xue Luocha and Emon Yen were in an intense fight when Long Chen suddenly arrived. Her expression completely changed. She had seen what he had just done and knew he was crazy. Having killed Shi Feng, he would have no misgivings about killing her. Hence, her manifestation trembled, and the meteor hammer suddenly whipped through the air at him. Boom! Long Chen's saber slashed onto the meteor hammer, causing sparks to fly. But Xue Luocha's giant figure had vanished. Want to run? Keep dreaming. Emon Yen sneered and suddenly raised his bow. His bow began to grow larger and larger until it entered his manifestation. The two people in his manifestation worked together, one holding the bow and one pulling back the string. An arrow flew out, crashing through the void. As a result, a large figure appeared out of the collapsed space. She was covered in blood, her hair disheveled. She had summoned a blood shield just now, but it had been broken by Emon Yen's arrow. Xue Luocha's figure had only just appeared when Long Chen sent evil moons slashing toward her head. Her head flew into the air. Emon Yen's bow was drawn, but he hesitated. Emon Yen, as a man, you have to settle debts of gratitude and enmity. Don't forget why you cultivate, shouted Long Chen. He knew that Emon Yen had misgivings about the Blood Emperor appearing. That would also further implicate Long Chen, but Long Chen wasn't worried about this. Emon Yen took a deep breath and unleashed his arrow. No! Xue Luocha's head exploded. The daughter of the Blood Emperor was dead, and a rune appeared where her head had been. The two runes rumbled. A frightening killing intent burst out of them. All the experts present suddenly felt a divine pressure on them, one that made them feel an urge to prostrate themselves. Two figures appeared at almost the same time. The Stone Races and the Xue family's experts all kowtowed toward them. Stone Emperor! Blood Emperor! They piously kowtowed, not daring to raise their heads. The Stone Emperor was a giant. The Blood Emperor wore a golden crown. Both of them emitted a terrifying pressure, the pressure of emperors. They were identical to the figures within Shi Feng and Xue Luocha's manifestations. The two of them did not possess physical bodies. They were simply ancient heroic spirits who had been prayed to and offered sacrifices by their people, allowing them to maintain the slightest bit of their soul essence to maintain their descendants' karmic luck. However, when their heirs died, their soul essence appeared. After awakening heaven's soul manifestations, their soul essence had become linked to their descendants, and as a result, after their descendants died, their soul essence would also quickly dissipate. Before all their soul essence was gone, they would have a chance to unleash their power in a furious reprisal for the deaths of their descendants. You dared to kill my descendant. You have some guts. I will kill you today, using your blood and soul to curse everyone related to you. Shi Changsheng reached out a giant hand at Long Chen. He clearly knew who had killed Shi Feng. My guts have always been big. As for killing me, does a trace of soul essence really dare to say such big words? Long Chen sneered, and a giant lightning portal appeared behind him. Lightning gushed out of it, and the Drake King appeared. Long Chen, you've gotten stronger once more. The spatial channel is finally stable enough for my true body to appear. That arrogant little bastard from last time, I'll kill him with one swat. The Drake King began to roar, his voice resounded through the air like thunder. That little bastard is nothing. He's just a small fish now. The big fish is right there. Can you kill him? Long Chen pointed to Shi Changsheng. Shi Changsheng looked at the Silver Drake King and disdainfully said, nothing more than a spirit of a paragon art. I'll erase you from this world. He spread his hands, and divine light shone down, eclipsing the sun. You dare to look down on me? The Drake King roared and sent his tail whipping toward him. Boom! Shi Changsheng's hand slammed into the Drake King's tail. Lightning crashed in every direction. Long Chen was shocked to see the Drake King's tail explode upon contact with Shi Changsheng's palm. Boom! On the other side, Emon Yen had used some secret art to retreat from the Blood Emperor, but he was coughing up blood. Emon Yen, get over here. Long Chen sent a lightning chain that pulled Mo Nian into the sea of lightning. The lighting could exhaust the power of these ancestral spirits rapidly, making them dissipate sooner. He had no intention of defeating these two emperor spirits. Those were existences that had challenged the sovereigns. Long Chen wasn't so conceited. He just wanted to exhaust their energy and have them naturally dissipate, so his only goal was stalling. Drake King, I'll give you all my thunder force. You have to stall them. Long Chen transmitted Lei Long's divine lightning energy to the Silver Drake King. All right. The Drake King was quite loyal, and even facing two terrifying emperor spirits, it didn't retreat. With the support of Lei Long's energy, it began to grow and grow. At the same time, more lightning drakes came flying out of the channel. Using my status as ruler of the lightning domain, I'll have a fight with you too. The Drake King roared, bringing forth all the lightning domain's power to the martial heaven continent. The glow of a firefly dares to compete with the moon? Shi Changsheng sneered and collapsed his hands together. A light sword shot out of his forehead, and at that moment, both Long Chen and Mo Nian felt an intense feeling of mortal danger. Boom! The silver drake roared and clawed the light sword, but its claw exploded, not even close to matching it. The light sword continued toward Long Chen and Mo Nian. Long Chen had no other choice but to block with Evil Moon. However, when the light sword slammed into Evil Moon, he felt like his body was about to be torn apart. Some kind of energy invaded his body, and his arms almost exploded, turning into lumps of flesh. What kind of power is this? Long Chen cried out. This is the power of the heroic spirit. It is similar to the faith energy of gods. After being worshipped by the stone race for so long, it has formed a kind of mental energy. Watch out. Mo Nian suddenly shot out golden arrows. The Blood Emperor had also attacked, waving his hand. Divine swords rained down on the two of them. Mo Nian's arrows might be able to suppress Shui Luocha, but now his attacks seemed incredibly weak in front of the Blood Emperor. Long Chen knew that Mo Nian's physical body wasn't strong, so he immediately stood in front of him. Long Chen began to slash the divine swords coming at him, but after just a dozen he felt his arms growing numb. The energy within the light swords was just too powerful. Split the heavens 8. Long Chen finally had a chance to attack and sent Evil Moon slashing toward the Blood Emperor. A giant saber image tore through the Blood Emperor, delighting Long Chen. But his smile quickly vanished. After the saber image passed through the Blood Emperor was completely unharmed. No need to waste the effort. They are ancient heroic spirits, not true bodies. They can't be injured unless you also have a divine item containing faith energy. My 5-element sun hunting bow possesses faith energy, but they aren't giving me a chance to attack, shouted Mo Nian. He was constantly shooting. Suddenly, his bow grew and the bowstring blocked the Stone Emperor's attack. Although the Stone Emperor's attack bounced off, Mo Nian almost died from the impact. Long Chen, thanks for letting me man up. Sorry for implicating you, sighed Mo Nian. What are you saying? Even if you didn't kill Shui Luocha, would you watch as I was killed by the Stone Emperor? Stop talking and focus on holding on, said Long Chen angrily. Under the torrent of attacks from two emperors, every breath felt as long as a year. They were barely hanging on. At this moment, Wild charged toward the Stone Emperor, smashing his club at the Stone Emperor's head. However, Wild passed straight through his body, unable to injure him. Wild, it's useless, shouted Long Chen. Then I can help you block. Wild actually appeared in front of a light sword slashing toward Long Chen. He used his own body to take it. Don't, shouted Long Chen, but it was too late. The light sword pierced through Wild's chest. Even Wild's powerful body was unable to resist an emperor's attack. Brother Long, Wild is too dumb to do anything else. But taking a sword for you is very easy. Wild still smiled foolishly even with blood dyeing his body. He seemed particularly happy to have helped Long Chen. Boss, I'm here too. Gua Ran shot over, his golden sabers slashing onto one of the Blood Emperor's attacks. As a result, he was smacked straight into the ground. However, Guoran flew back quickly and continued to block some attacks for Long Chen. He was also unable to threaten an emperor in the slightest, but his goal was the same as Wild. On the surface, Guoran seemed fine in his armor, but in reality his armor was unable to fully insulate him from the power of these emperors. Inside his armor, he was bleeding from his 7 orifices but was still bitterly enduring. Suddenly, a beautiful streak of sword chi soared into the sky and slashed toward the Blood Emperor. The Blood Emperor had been ignoring everyone's attacks, but when Yu Zifeng's sword slashed toward him, he actually dodged it. "He's afraid of Yu Zifeng's sword chi," exclaimed Long Chen. Wild, Guoran, work together to support Zifeng. Emon Yen, get ready to shoot. Long Chen pressed a palm against Emon Yen's back, sending his spiritual yuan gushing into Emon Yen's body. Emon Yen immediately understood. Yu Zifeng's sword Dao lay above the laws of this world and was able to threaten the Blood Emperor. This was their best chance to counterattack. However, Yu Zifeng was a sword cultivator, and his physical body was weak. He definitely couldn't endure an attack from the Blood Emperor. Within Emon Yen's manifestation, the two figures pressed a hand against Emon Yen's back. The 5-element sun-hunting bow blazed with light. Space twisted, and murmuring began to resound throughout the air. This murmuring included prayers, blessings, longing, reverence, and gratitude. This was the mental energy accumulated by Mo Gate's worship toward their ancestors. Emon Yen was using his ancestral power. An arrow left his bow. It was like a bolt of lightning, streaking toward the Blood Emperor. Just as Wild, Guoran, and Yu Zifeng drew the Blood Emperor's attention, this arrow arrived in front of him. The Blood Emperor smashed a fist forward, and a brilliant explosion lit up the sky. However, Long Chen and Emon Yen's hearts turned cold. The Blood Emperor still remained. How could this be? Emon Yen's expression was incredibly ugly. "It's fine. Even if we didn't kill him, we have to have exhausted his mental energy. We still have a chance," said Long Chen. "Zifeng, get out of here. Will be enough." Although Yu Zifeng was the only one here capable of threatening the two emperors had sensed his existence and would not allow him to get close. If he tried to force it, he might be instantly killed. Just as Long Chen and the others were in a bitter battle, there was an even more terrifying battle in the distance. A giant stone tablet appeared in the sky. The stone tablet was so huge that the top of it seemed to be resting amongst the stars. This giant tablet was the Martial Heaven Alliance's greatest trump card, the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. This was the divine item created on the day of the Martial Heaven Alliance's founding. It was where the Martial Heaven Alliance's faith gathered, the divine item that terrified the corrupt path the most. This divine item was full of energy and was covered in names, which represented some supreme experts of the Martial Heaven Alliance. They had died in battles against the corrupt path and had had their names recorded here so that their descendants would remember their accomplishments. However, not every name carved into the tablet died in battle. Some of them had carved their names into the tablet just before they died, leaving all the energy they had left in the tablet. After countless years, countless experts had poured their life's power into the tablet. As for how much power had been accumulated, no one knew. All people knew was that this was the most terrifying divine item of the Martial Heaven Alliance, the supreme martial weapon that intimidated the corrupt path. When Chu Jianying had seen Long Chen in danger, she had stopped caring about anything else. Along with the 4 Grand Elders, she had summoned the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. Even Chu Jianying did not have absolute authority over this divine item. It also required the approval of the 4 Grand Elders. Unless things reached a point where there was absolutely no other choice, the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet could not be used. That was a rule created with its creation and the founding of the Alliance. The energy accumulated within the tablet could only be used at a critical juncture dictating the survival of the very righteous path. Every bit of energy stored inside this divine item could only be used once. Every bit that was used up would be gone forever. That energy was the result of countless ancestors pouring their remaining life into it before their deaths. Their ancestors had entrusted this to them, so they couldn't use it randomly. Although this was not truly a time where the righteous path was about to be destroyed, Long Chen was the greatest hope of the righteous path. If he died, it would be a huge blow to the righteous path. Using the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet now was definitely correct. As soon as the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet appeared, Xie Wenyan called back the corrupt god Ancient Tower, sending it toward the tablet. You think you can save Longchen? Keep dreaming. The corrupt path's experts knelt and began to chant piously, causing the corrupt god Ancient Tower to blaze with an evil light. That evil light stretched toward the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. Boom. That evil light exploded on contact with the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. It was unable to shake it in the slightest. At this moment, a golden furnace appeared, and a majestic aura burst out of it. Yu Xiaoyan had taken out the day-night furnace. The Xian beasts Peng Wanli, the ancient family alliances Di Long, the ancient races Long Juansong, and the Bloodkill Hall's Zhong Xiang also took out their own divine items. The Dongfang family's head shouted, Long Chen colluded with the original devil race and guided the Qi flow stream here to interfere with the sovereign seal, throwing the entire Martial Heaven continent into danger. He must be executed. The Martial Heaven Alliance refuses to see the truth, so don't blame us for being ruthless. A tiny golden bell appeared in his hand. It rapidly grew larger, and as it did, divine music rang out. The center of the bell is actually the heavenly music stone, exclaimed the experts that had attended the gathering of past and present heroes. This is another priceless treasure of the Dongfang family, the heavenly soul bell. It said its power is even above the astral ancient castle. Chu Jianying was fully infuriated. Fuck your dog's head excuses. Everyone can clearly see what kind of person Long Chen is. Even if you have to slander him, can't you think of a better excuse? How does destroying the Martial Heaven continent benefit him? Since you've shown your true shameless faces, let's just fight to the end. Even the Dongfang family's people had thrown their support to Pill Valley's story about Long Chen being an irredeemable villain. There was no need for any further explanations then. People faking sleep could never be awoken no matter how you shouted into their ears. The Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet unleashed a wave of divine light. Countless different auras existed within it, and they ignited, unleashing a wave of power that smashed against the many divine items on the other side. Rumbling shook the world, and the entire Martial Heaven continent shook. Chu Jianying, your selfishness has led you to betray the will of the heavens. Do you think that on your own, you can fight against the rest of the world? Sneered the Dongfang family's head. They had multiple powerful divine items on their side. However, the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet was slowly pressing forward, forcing them all back. The ground constantly shook and exploded, unleashing huge waves that filled the sky. The Martial Heaven Alliance really lives up to being the #1 alliance. Even though they have declined to the point of fracturing, their foundation still remains. The Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet was still pushing forward against so many powerful divine items. That sight was incomparably shocking. Chu Jianying, you're using the power that the ancestors of the Martial Heaven Alliance left behind for fighting amongst ourselves instead of the incoming powerful enemies. If the ancestors were to learn of this, they definitely wouldn't be able to rest in peace. You are the most muddle-headed leader throughout the history of the Martial Heaven Alliance. You've betrayed the hopes of everyone before you, said the Dongfang family's head righteously. Jianying, I can't endure it any longer. I'll kill him, said the old man suddenly. No, I need you to help me control the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. If you run off, how am I supposed to handle them? Shouted Chu Jianying. At this moment, the old man had one hand pressed against Chu Jianying's back, helping her control the tablet. However, his other hand was now on the hilt of the heaven-splitting blade. Chu Jianying knew that if the old man went, he would definitely disregard his own life just to kill the shameless Dongfang family head. She understood his temper too well. What, are you going to ignore my orders? Have you forgotten what you promised me? Demanded Chu Jianying. The old man clenched his teeth and slowly released the hilt of his blade. He pointed at the Dongfang family head, indicating for the latter to just wait until he killed him. Chu Jianying, don't try to scare us. The Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet isn't something someone like you can control. You can't unleash its true power. The Martial Heaven Alliance is no longer complete, and without obtaining 80% support of the Alliance, it's impossible to use its full power. Adding on all your current members, you only have 50%. This is the result of your failure as a leader. Shouldn't you hurry up and admit your mistakes? Sneered Yu Xiaoyun. The divine mark on Yu Xiaoyun's forehead lit up. The day-night furnace unleashed a ringing sound as it fought back against the tablet. This is the result of your schemes. You fractured the Martial Heaven Alliance just for today? Yu Xiaoyun, you really scheme deeply, shouted Chu Jianying angrily. You can't blame anyone else for your own failures. Perhaps a new alliance head was needed a long time ago. Everyone, what are you still waiting for? Yu Xiaoyun turned to Peng Wanli and the others. Peng Wanli and the others also took a deep breath and unleashed all their power, causing the light of their divine items to grow more intense. The Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet was no longer able to continue pressing forward. It began to shake. Chu Jianying and the 4 Grand Elders started to feel the pressure. Support the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. Yi Lingshan took the lead and extended her hands. Light shot out of the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet, forming a bridge for her spiritual yuan to enter it. The hundreds of thousands of experts from the Martial Heaven Alliance took action, sending their energy into the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. Its light grew even more radiant, but against so many powerful divine items, it was still shaking. Its divine light seemed to be on the verge of crumbling. It's no good. We are unable to draw out the full power of the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet. It's on the verge of breaking. Chu Jianying turned pale. Don't worry. If the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet breaks, I'll bring down a few of them to accompany it, comforted the old man, killing intent raging in his eyes. The neutral experts were all panicking inside. As these two sides clashed intensely, they could only watch. At this time, no matter who they helped, the other side would view them as their mortal enemy. They had an urge to try mediating things, but this was no ordinary fight. There was no misunderstanding between the two sides. Instead, it was hate and a vow to not stop until death. Taoist Heavenly Feather, can you stop this battle? Someone turned to Taoist Heavenly Feather, who had the highest seniority. Perhaps she was the only one with the power to stop this battle. Yes, Taoist Heavenly Feather, we're all cultivators of the Martial Heaven continent. Why must we fight to the point of killing ourselves? The sea demons have stepped foot onto the continent, and the dark era is coming. Every person is an important resource for the upcoming battles. There's no need to exhaust ourselves against each other, said someone else with a begging tone. However, Taoist Heavenly Feather shook her head. I understand your words, but the people on the battlefield also understand them as well. Because their goals are different, there's no way for them to communicate. In this world, not all things can be settled with reason. Although everyone has said that martial power cannot resolve problems, sometimes martial power is the only choice. Long Chen is that kind of person. I'm sure everyone has seen the truth, but there are still people slandering him. Some people just don't have a conscience. So what can I do about it? Taoist Heavenly Feather, are you really saying that Long Chen is being set up? Asked one person probingly. The truth is no longer important. They want to kill Long Chen, and Long Chen wants to kill them. This is the result that they want. Have you not seen that Long Chen simply acts according to his own heart and doesn't bother explaining himself? What he wants now is to kill all his enemies. Both sides wish to kill the other, so no one can advise them. Their goals are clear. Even a god could not change Long Chen's determination. Do you think my words would change the mind of someone who dares to kill the heirs of emperors? Just keep watching. Perhaps this is fate. If the Martial Heaven continent's core forces are too injured for the upcoming battles and break, then all we can say is that the continent's destiny has come to an end, said Taoist Heavenly Feather lightly. Seeing the intense battle being fought, everyone felt afraid. If the world was destroyed, none of them would survive. Beitang Rushuang clenched her fists, struggling over whether or not to help Long Chen. She had to fight for her family. If she helped him, she would be pulling her family onto Long Chen's side. Beitang Rushuang looked at Nangong Zuyu. Although Nangong Zuyu's expression was still calm, Beitang Rushuang could see that she was struggling as well. Qingxian used the Brahma Divine Diagram to smash apart the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet, shouted Yu Shaoyun suddenly. The Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet was rumbling, suppressed by the power of so many divine items. Even with the support of all the Martial Heaven Alliance's experts, it was still at a clear disadvantage. Everyone hastily turned to the Pill Fairy. After fighting with Long Qin, the Pill Fairy had not made another move. She had just watched, seeming to be thinking about something. Being summoned by Yu Shaoyun, she turned around. Her divine halo lit up. "Don't move." Out of nowhere, a foot-long dagger pressed against her snow-white neck. A cloaked maiden appeared beside the Pill Fairy. That figure was small and slender, but her appearance stunned everyone. "Dong Mingyu, what are you doing?" raged Zhong Ziyang. This maiden was the Bloodkill Hall's divine daughter, Dong Mingyu. She was the Bloodkill Hall's strongest assassin, in existence above all other assassins. Dong Mingyu was someone from the Bloodkill Hall, and the Bloodkill Hall was allied with them. But now Dong Mingyu was pressing her dagger against the Pill Fairy's neck. Everyone simply stared at her in dumbfounded silence. They were unable to wrap their heads around this reality. "Don't move." Dong Mingyu's dagger suddenly pressed into the Pill Fairy's neck, leaving a small cut. Fresh blood slowly dripped down the dagger. "I am also a divine daughter. Your divine energy protection is useless against me. All I need to do is press down slightly and your head will fall. So don't try anything funny. Otherwise, I'll really be forced to kill you." Dong Mingyu also had a divine halo behind her head. However, Dong Mingyu's aura was non-existent. It was impossible to sense. The only thing that revealed her existence was their sight, but without that, no one would believe that someone was there. "Why?" demanded the Pill Fairy. She didn't dare to move. "For a certain person." Dong Mingyu looked toward Long Qin. She smiled faintly. "All disciples of the Bloodkill Hall, hear my orders. Kill the disciples of the Martial Heaven Alliance," shouted Zhong Ziyang. However, even after a few seconds, not one person responded to him. "No need to shout again. I've sent those people to the Killing God. Let alone them, even the Killing God statue has been smashed apart. Have you not noticed? The divine light of your Killing God imperial decree already dissipated," said Dong Mingyu indifferently. Zhong Ziyang looked at his waist, and his expression completely changed. He shouted, "Dong Mingyu, you dare to betray the Killing God?" Dong Mingyu smiled. "Who cares about this betrayal? My life was given to me by him. He showed me another kind of life. He showed me there is something called kindness in this world. He showed me something known as warmth. As for the Killing God, he simply uses us as tools for killing and gathering faith energy. He didn't give me anything. He was using me, while I also thirsted for greater power, so it wasn't a betrayal. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. I worked hard at my cultivation so that one day I could repay him." "Who is he?" roared Zhong Ziyang. "Do you need to ask?" "He is Long Qin." Dong Mingyu suddenly pulled back her hood, revealing a young face that caused startled cries to ring out amongst the crowd. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.